The magic of Tuesday is back. Good evening, everybody. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler. We're the Wise Guys, and we have a loaded show tonight. If you're into BYU in general, you can be into the science department, the health department, or the sports department. This show is for everyone.
It's for everyone. Music. You forgot the music department.
Yeah, the music department.
And I don't know what department. This is the merchandising department. But did you notice how carefully I put this over? Because the last time I almost lost my.
Well, there was an incident.
But I see now that she has a lot more, whatever this stuff is. What's that stuff that sticks together? Velcro.
Velcro.
Yeah, she's got Velcro.
She's
on her
not
waist.
going anywhere.
She's in good shape now.
That's good because we got a big.
She's our good luck charm. She never.
We've never lost a show with her here.
We haven't lost a show. We're undefeated on the show, and it's because, let's face it, is it really a game or a contest if there's not a cheerleader?
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Yeah. And remember when we had Marie Osmond on, we took the cheerleader and then we superimposed Marie's face on the cheerleader and had her doing some cheers. And then it went all over the place on social media.
It was awesome.
So that's how we roll.
Yes.
So Utah State's on Thursday night, so everything's sped up this week.
Yeah, see,
it's been a crazy day.
It seems like we're already almost to the weekend, but we're not.
But we are.
We're not.
We are not. We just finished up after further review. Boatload of video from the Wyoming game Saturday night and a little bit of preview of Utah State, which we'll talk about tonight over the next couple of hours. But, yeah, it's been a busy day, hopping, and I love the fact that there's football on Thursday.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen very often.
My dad and I were talking about it last night. And he said, I'm not a fan of the 8:30 at night Saturday games because he said, I feel like the East Coast misses out on the exposure for the teams in the West. And he's got a great point there. He goes, but I do like the Thursday night at 6 o'clock games because I feel like the entire nation has their eyes on those games on Thursday night. I'm like, Dad, you're exactly right on that. He was right on the money. I agree with him 100%.
And I love that we'll be on the air at 4 on game day, and then the post-game show and all that stuff, instead of 1 or 2 in the morning, we'll be wrapping up around 10 o'clock.
Oh, you mean the fact that we went to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and I had to be at Ward Conference at 9?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what you're talking
That's
about?
exactly what I'm talking about.
So
hey, we love 6 o'clock.
Don't you love that Mark Axwell seems like he's always the first guy on the scene.
Right out of the gate.
And then he says, I'm a major cog in the fan department, which he is. And then Bluesville's like, first off, how about our cross-country teams?
Ranked number 1.
We're going to talk about that. That's huge. And then Robbie Yuki says it's Wagon Wheel Week, which is important.
It
Utah
is
State is Wagon Wheel Week. We appreciate all of you that are with us and checking in with us and have subscribed and supported us from the very, very beginning. That group that we just mentioned have been around with us since the beginning of this thing.
And if you want to help us grow this show further, we would love for you to go to YouTube and subscribe. There's going to be a link in the chat. It doesn't cost you anything, and then we'll amass our numbers there, and that's one way to support us. There it is. You just click on the subscription button.
Right over there, that little, I can't tell if that's green or red because I'm colorblind. What color is that? On the right-hand side, right below the football. It's red.
It's red.
Thank you, DJ. You guys know I can't tell the difference between red and green, right?
Yeah. I've driven with you. I know.
Yeah. Well, no. On a red light, that's easy. The red is on top and the green is on the bottom. Plus, green lights in traffic look like they're white.
It's the yellow one that gets you confused.
If it's a single flashing light, I'm in big trouble. Because I can't tell if that's yellow flashing or red flashing.
And if there's red flashing lights behind us, we're both in trouble.
Yeah, because I don't know if that's just I don't know if that's actually a police car.
A SWAT
but don't
unit.
Police cars have like blue in their lights too?
Depends on what city. But there's red and there's yellow and there's blue.
If I don't have a little help in the car, I got some problems.
Yeah.
So when I come up to a 4-way flashing light, if I'm just all by myself, I just stop because I don't know any better. If there are other cars, I observe because I'm very observant. And I see whether they're stopping or just going through.
Please
and then
be patient.
I can determine through the process of deduction, or is that inductive reasoning? I think it's deductive reasoning. I don't even know. But
or reductive.
But I know whether or not I can go, and it has nothing to do with whether
you see
I can
Blaine
tell
on the
if it's
open
yellow or
road.
red.
Please be patient.
Just be careful.
He's doing
Just be
his
careful
best.
out there if you see me driving around, because I don't know my colors.
Here's what we got coming up tonight. We're going to look at the AP Top 25, why BYU didn't move, and where the opponents did move to.
Yeah. Well, and remember, they didn't move in the AP, but they did move up a couple spots in the coaches poll.
Yeah, but I thought we threw that one out.
No, well, we kind of do, but it's just like, okay,
Unless BYU gets high enough,
are the
then we'll
coaches
bring it back
actually noticing? Because now they're only one apart. Where before I thought, so a little bit closer. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Hey, we're going to break down the lessons learned in that Wyoming game and some of the new stars that were born in that game.
We'll set the table for Thursday night, Utah State, just down the road at Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
Yeah, and then how about who we've got coming on the show tonight? First of all, we've got one of the best safeties in BYU history, a guy there were a lot of slobber knockers happening out there when guys were hit so hard their mouthpiece came out and spit came out of their mouth. When Andrew Rich was roaming the back of that secondary, Andrew,
he will knock your block off
tonight. Hey, both of our guys tonight, I know their dads, and I have a great appreciation for both of their dads. So that's pretty cool. Two sons that have great dads coming on tonight. One of those
amazing is because you and I are both so young that we know all those
How
guys.
do we know their dads, right?
Riley Nelson, a guy who played quarterback at both BYU and Utah State, is going to be with us, and we're going to relive that 96-yard drive in 2011 that beat the Aggies and won him the starting job.
Yep. And Riley's dad, KJ's, both dads are good friends that I have tremendous respect for. So that's kind of fun. Good to see the next generation. Two good guys as dads, two great guys as young men in Riley and in Andrew for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot of news on campus, including the latest BYU athletic team to reach the #1 national ranking in their sport.
Yes.
And their coach was on the Wise Guys last week.
That you talk about. We always talk about Sports Nation karma. This is
it might be next
bigger.
level.
This is even bigger.
This is primetime karma.
When you get Wise Guys karma, you go to #1.
Things happen.
Yes.
You go to #1.
Ed comes on. Next thing you know, they're #1 in the nation.
Here's what was announced today, and if you're into BYU football, this will perk your attention. The Cougars announced that they will host Southern Illinois to open the 2024 season. That's going to be August 31st. We already know it's going to be hot.
Right.
The Salukis are an FCS program. And the game scheduled against Utah Tech used to be Dixie State. That one that was scheduled for 2024 is moving to 2026, and that tells us that 23 and 24 are set, minus the Big 12.
Well, we're gonna find out about that, the Big 12 schedule for this next season in the next couple of weeks.
Maybe next week. Maybe next week.
Are we gonna find out?
October.
I'm thinking 2 weeks from now we know at the latest.
It's gonna be
So that's
the reality check.
Pretty exciting. So let's look at the 2023 non-conference slate as it stands right now. So September 2nd, they're going to play Sam Houston at home.
It'll be their first year at the FBS
level, right?
Yeah.
So then September 9th, it's Southern Utah at home. So there's your FCS game.
And a typical, if this was an independence year, would be going, what? But this is not an independence year.
On independence years, I've kind of, I've said, hey, if you have to play an FCS game, play one of the in-state schools.
Yeah.
Let's just keep the money in the state. But in independence year, I was just like, why are they playing an FCS team at all, right?
Yeah.
But when they're in the Big 12, I'm saying, okay, that's okay. You can play Southern Utah. September 16th will be at Arkansas, so this is the return favor for the game here in a couple of weeks in Lavelle Edwards Stadium when the Razorbacks, nationally ranked Razorbacks, make their way to Provo and take on the Cougars. And then September 23rd is when the Big 12 schedule starts in earnest. The very first Big 12 game will be September 3rd. And I hope in the next couple weeks we're going to come in here. We're going to give you the whole schedule for 2023. Well, there's your non-conference. Sam Houston, Southern Utah at home, at Arkansas, return trip for. And so you think about that. That's a brand new FBS, an FCS, and an SEC team in your preseason schedule, which is about what you want to do in terms of balance.
Hey, Earl Carr, joining us on YouTube tonight. Thank you. We welcome you. Give me a personal welcome to the Wise Guys and everybody else on YouTube and Twitch and ysguys.com. All right, let's go to 2024 since they firmed that up this afternoon before we came on the air. And, August, it feels like we haven't had an August game for a while. I don't know why we have, but it just feels like we haven't.
The weekends have fallen, but But you already mentioned that one.
So Southern Illinois, August 31st, and then a couple of road games.
Yeah, at Utah. How about that on September 7th?
That'd be awesome. What a night that'll be.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see as time progresses how often that matchup's going to happen with Utah and BYU.
We know they're on the books for the next 7 years, and we'll see.
You want to know what though? I know that everything quieted down because we're in season, but isn't there a chance that those guys could play every year in conference in the Big 12? Still, absolutely. Yeah. So that's not out of the question. No. But next time BYU plays Utah, it'll be at Utah and Rice Eccles on September 7th of 2024. And then they'll go return last week's game in Laramie. So they'll be at Wyoming on September 14th.
Tom Homo said before the game, we're going to keep that one. And we thought, what? I thought you were going to play Nevada that year. They're not playing Nevada. No. And so this firms that up. Yeah, the good news is it's September 14th, not November 14th.
Right, you don't want to go to Laramie. I just have a memory of Laramie where it snowed so sideways that when I walked into the locker room, here's the other crazy thing. It wasn't even snowing in warm-ups, but there was this ominous black bank of clouds that was making its way, and then it hit. Do you remember on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer when they go, and it hit?
The big one.
The greatest storm and it just started snowing sideways. And I went into the locker room. First of all, I was frozen, did not want to be there. I wasn't even playing. I was a youngin'. And I walk in the locker room, and I look at myself in the mirror, and there's 4 inches of snow on the left side of me and nothing on the right side of me. That's how sideways it was snowing. We couldn't throw the ball at all.
You know what I learned? You know what I learned from Rudolph?
What?
That guy was a gamer.
You know what I learned?
Big storm came. What he did? He did his job.
No, he was. And here's the thing. They say the thing about Bumbles is Bumbles bounce. Remember, that's what I learned from that, too. Remember the abominable snowman?
Yeah.
When Yukon Cornelia says, the one thing about Bumbles is Bumbles bounce.
I don't remember.
Well,
I remember most of the lines in that. I do not remember that one. Well, but I don't doubt it. I do not doubt it.
No. So,
and then the Big 12 will start on September 21st in 2024. So we know the next 2 years are now set.
And it looks for everything we're hearing that you'll have Oklahoma and Texas still in the conference through that season.
And maybe we'll get one of them here and one of them.
Wouldn't that be nice to have Texas one time at home and Oklahoma one time at home?
Yeah, because you know what? We love Steve Sarkisian, but Texas is not back. No. Texas Tech beat them last week. They can't get it right.
People say they're back, and they're not back.
All right, before we get Andrew Rich on with us.
Texas doesn't beat Texas Tech, or doesn't lose to Texas Tech.
Let's recap the Wyoming game real quick, and then we're going to get Andrew's take on things. Cougars won 38-24, a late one Saturday night. Stadium was packed. The Rock was outstanding.
Oh, amazing.
Environment's awesome. Fire dancers were back. There were more fireworks shot off in the stadium than I've ever seen.
Max Hall was standing with us, and he just said, where was all this stuff when I was playing? He says, am I not remembering? He goes, how about when you played? I go, no. The student section wasn't nuts like that, all in one spot. The fireworks and the in-stadium entertainment and before the fourth quarter, that break between the third and fourth quarter, and all of that craziness and fun. I mean, David Almadova does a phenomenal job of bringing one of the best in-stadium experiences in the country. And Max and I were just kind of reminiscing and going, yeah, it's all time right now. It was not like that when we were playing.
When David was on the show before the season started, we asked him, hey, is there going to be more fire in the stadium? And he said, well, pending approval. We're still waiting on approval.
They must have gotten approval.
They
must have gotten approval.
You got to get to a home game. They light that thing up.
It was pretty awesome.
And it'll be festive on Thursday. Story with Puka Nacua.
Yeah, so Puka got injured in the third quarter on an 8-yard pass completion. He looked in great shape. Ankle looked pretty solid. He was getting open. He was making plays. And then he went to slow down and to cut, and we saw him go down. And he grabbed the back of his knee, and everybody was like, what was it? Did he hurt his ankle again? He grabbed the back of his knee.
Giant 60,000 people
was it his knee? What was it? And what we found out afterwards from Kalani Sitake was it wasn't his knee or his ankle, that it was some type of a muscle injury, probably a hamstring by where he grabbed. We don't know for certain on that, but we cannot confirm or deny, but this we can confirm. Kalani said this is not a season-ending injury for Puka Nacua. So that was the bad news. Was he came back and got injured. The good news is it was not a serious season-ending injury. For
He's
Puka
spectacular on the field. We all know that. We'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
On social media or on our show here. We're going to get Gunnar Romney back Thursday. That's confirmed, and he's all fired up about that. Miles Davis was one of the big stories coming out of Wyoming.
Yeah.
13 carries, 131 yards, all in the second half.
He really showed a knack for getting the ball and having great vision. We saw him run the cutback lane. We saw him find a seam on the front side of their zone stretch. We saw him get through the hole and accelerate and run away from people. Big plays. We saw him catch balls out of the backfield. We've been hearing for a little while Aaron Roderick talking about Miles Davis and that he was this young up-and-coming guy that was going to have a big impact. And, boy, we saw that the other night. So
I'm going to sit down with him.
He made a statement.
We'll see Davis unplugged on game day Thursday night on BYU TV.
And Keanu Hill isn't a new name to anyone, but he had a fantastic game.
Those are new numbers.
Yeah, 5 receptions, 160 yards. Wow. His per catch average.
And some of those catches were just phenomenal.
Yeah, he was. That's over 30 yards a catch if my math is right. Right.
Yeah.
And 2 touchdowns. The first one he did a little dance. Kalani, he got a penalty. Kalani said to him, he says, I told him. They called
it the gritty, right?
Yeah, that's the gritty that he did. Kalani said to him, I told him what Norm Chow used to tell all of us, and I remember this. When you score a touchdown, act like you've been there and like you plan on being there a lot. And so the next time he scored, he just put the ball down and walked out. And Kalani wants you to get over to the sideline and celebrate with your buddies.
And Kalani did the gritty with him on the sideline.
Yes, he did. And that's the kind of coach he's like, now, this is the appropriate time and the appropriate place. In the end zone, Keanu, that second one, acted like, hey, I've been here before, because he had just a little while earlier. And in case you haven't noticed, I plan on being here a lot.
Yeah.
And I loved that statement. So
Jaron Hall was outstanding, 26 of 32, 337 yards, 4 touchdowns. Another game without an interception. On the season now, he's thrown 144 passes, 9 touchdowns, and just 1 interception.
His completion percentage is 71.5%.
What did you peak out at?
Oh, I don't even remember, 60-something. Hey, we used to, like our guys that were the starters at that time, like Steve and Jim and those guys, I think that target was, listen, we want to be 65%-ish, or 65%-ish, right around there. 71 is, that's phenomenal.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good.
Hey, coming up in the next couple of weeks, Rob Jensen, artist, will join us. Travis Hansen, former BYU basketball player, global entrepreneur, will be here with us. Dwayne Oakes is one who spearheads the alumni relations in Las Vegas and the Southwest. He'll join us with plans for what's going down ahead of the Notre Dame game in Las Vegas.
That's going to be fun.
Curtis Brown and Devin Durant will be with us on October 11th. Brandon Doman is going to rejoin us later in October, break down some games. And Steve Cleveland is a late confirmation today. He'll join us in October as we get ready for BYU basketball.
Cleve will help us break down the basketball.
Our first guest tonight suited up for the Cougars for 3 seasons, 2008, 9, and 10. He delivered 127 solo tackles from the safety position, had 10 interceptions, second most in school history. Our pleasure to welcome Andrew Rich to the Wise Guys via Zoom tonight. Andrew, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I like that studio you have going on there. It looks good.
You still like the Big 12 stuff in the back? We decided to go Big 12 theme.
I like the Big 12 stuff in the back. That looks
pretty
nice.
It's pretty fun.
The look you've got behind you is that someone's holding you against your will, and you're surrounded by brick walls.
What's up with that?
Hey, this is my wife's doing. I'm not going to tell her that you just mentioned that.
See, now that's good.
This is a little bit of it's a little brick veneer.
Okay.
See, but you were too close up before because we couldn't see
the skull.
The scope in the skull.
I'm trying to scoot back from this thing as much as possible, given my poor complexion and just ugly face. But yeah,
come on.
I have to be close to it.
Tell your wife that we love the scenery. It's very what? It's construction-like.
No, it's not.
They're bricks. It's construction-like.
The brick veneer look on one wall is very modern and clean, is what it is. So, Andrew, don't worry about Dave. He doesn't really know architecture and style like I do. But
look, I know Pink Floyd, and I know another brick on the wall when I see one.
So hey, before you were probably listening, like we were talking about our guests, so we got we got you and we've got Riley. And I was telling Dave how much I love your dad and how much I love Riley's dad. You guys, you and Riley both have phenomenal dads. I love your dad.
We do have phenomenal dads, and believe it or not, my dad's a couple years older than Riley's. They got after it, man. They played against each other in high school. And, my dad went on to Weber and Riley's dad went on to USU, and they were both good players in their rights, and they still think they can play. And, you get the back in my day stories, and I was, very blessed to have really good parents. My dad's great. I'm glad you think a lot of him, because he thinks a lot of you guys. He thinks a lot of BYU, and kind of I don't want to get off script or anything, but, my experience at BYU changed my dad's life.
Really? How so?
So my dad's got a pretty cool story, pretty cool redemption story. My dad passed away, or my dad's parents passed away when he was 13. And he was the youngest of 5, and they were basically lived by themselves. And sports is kind of what kept my dad going to school and doing the things that he should be doing. However, like, as you can imagine, growing up in the 70s without parents, and anyways, he kind of, sports kind of guided him. I love that he ended up at Weber State, but my dad has a pretty awesome story about overcoming addiction. He was in a very pivotal time, kind of right when I got back from my mission, right when I left on my mission. And, Bronco gets a lot of heat for the firesides and stuff. Like, people always make fun of that. That actually changed my dad's life. And my experience at BYU changed my dad's life. And so I'm, as much as my dad, my dad's grateful for the university. I'm grateful that I, got that experience, but big picture had a huge impact on him.
Well, and I have tremendous respect for your dad, because he didn't hide from that, and he shared his redemption story, at least with me. And we used to run into each other at Oak Ridge and out and about, and I just grew to have a great love for and respect for him, because of who he had been, where he had fallen, and who he had become after all of that, which I think was just a phenomenal story. So I really have a great appreciation and love for your dad.
Same.
People dogged those firesides, the squeaky wheels. They dogged them on games BYU lost, but we've been on the road all over the country, and we've gone to those. Those are some of that's part of the greatest thing of BYU coming to your neighborhood, is a fireside before the game for the whole area. And Kalani's doing them in the summer. They said we can still do them. We'll just do them not necessarily before the games. But I agree with you. I watched whether we were in Michigan or Nebraska or Virginia. You watch kids come in and listen to these BYU football players bear their testimony and give talks or sing a song, and it has an impact on them, bigger than whatever happens at the football game. Yeah,
I totally agree, and I'm a fierce defender of those, and I love that Kalani does them in the summer. Like, and it's funny because game prep, everyone's a little different on how they prepare for games. There's some players that it just didn't really resonate with before the game, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They weren't forced to go, and there's some people it actually helps them, kind of calms them. And for me, it was a great experience. Looking back when you're older and you're not in the moment, especially, you think about, wow, that was a pretty impactful time for me. I remember we actually did it one year in the Provo Detention Center. And, those are things that you don't forget. And the game is so much bigger than sometimes I think we get caught up in the moments of the games. And don't get me wrong, like, I love them. I hate losing. Yeah. I love every aspect of sports, but there's definitely more things that you learn in those experiences. So I was grateful that I had those experiences while I was there.
It's kind of cool too. And you got to travel all over the country with BYU. The connection that people all over have to the university through the sports program is really cool. And you got to experience that, whether you were speaking at a fireside or not, just to see the fan base that would show up. Dave and I are really fortunate. We get to travel sometimes with both football and basketball. I'll never forget, we went down to Vegas for BYU's game against Arizona. Was that just last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had a
Fan
like
fest.
a fan festival
Yeah.
Friday night before the game. And Dave and I are driving out there, Andrew, and we're going, whoa, who decided that this thing was going to be out here? Because this is nowhere near the town.
And
Like,
then,
we're
yeah.
35 minutes out out north and west of town. I said, nobody's coming to this thing. We get out there, and 10,000 BYU fans showed up at that fan fest. And we did a live show from there, and people lined up to talk to us and to talk about, and they were not just from Vegas, they were from all over, about their connection to BYU and the sports programs. You witnessed that all over the country. What's that like when you go even back to the East Coast and just feel the appreciation from the fans that you're there?
Yeah, it's special. Like, and I don't think sometimes as a player you really recognize how, like, until you're in Tallahassee and you realize, oh my gosh, like, look at all these people here. There's people here that support and are just fanatics about the program. I think our footprint on college sports and just the world as a whole is so underestimated, because like you go try, I don't know the fan base. Like, I remember playing at TCU, you go to like the Dallas-Fort Worth area and there are loads of BYU fans just like that, thousands of people. And you're just like, man, this is impressive. And I think, especially over the last 10 or so years, the way that Tom and from the athletic side, how they've kind of harnessed, for fans in Las Vegas to go have an experience and interact with some of the athletes and some of the, the people involved in athletics, like that's amazing. It's, from a playing perspective, it makes a huge difference too, because you're not alone. Sometimes you get in those places, you feel alone. Like, it's when you can hear people cheer, in the other opponent's section. Now I was going to bring up the Tulane game when I was a junior, and we had like 4 fans to every 1 fan of Tulane that was in the Superdome, but that's not that impressive. But regardless, like, you're in New Orleans and you got a few thousand people there to watch you clear far away. It's unique, definitely unique at BYU.
Andrew Rich is with us on the Wise Guys tonight. Wyoming in town, now out of town. What most impressed you from that game the other night?
Yeah, so first of all, Wyoming, BYU is Wyoming Super Bowl, in my opinion. That might be a biased view of how they really think, but you could tell they were prepped and they were locked and loaded to play us. I thought they played physical. I thought they had a really nice scheme, and you could feel their desire, to compete, and which I have a lot of respect and admiration for the way that they play. I probably, like most fans, was a little nervous there in that first half with just the energy, and I was a little bit surprised how well they, or tough they played us in the trenches.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, we're gonna gash these guys on both sides of the ball, from start to finish. And I was, they played us tough that first half. They're always physical. What I came away from the game thinking, like, wow, there are some people to me that really stood out. You guys talked about Miles Davis, burst. That kid had some really special plays that he made. I can't imagine being a sophomore and playing at that level. Like, I was a return missionary, 21 when I'm playing it. Like, it's impressive to see guys like that step in and play. From the defensive side of the ball, like, I had never really watched Micah Harper play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's physical, man. I was like, dude, he next to Max might be our most physical defender, and he made some really good plays. I thought obviously in the second half we made some good plays offensively. Defensively, we played pretty much tough the whole game. Jaron continues to make throws that you're just like, wow.
We were watching him on film today, Andrew. for the review show that airs right before this, and we've already seen it before because we looked at the film to get ready for the show, but we'd watch the throw again, and Dave Nixon and I would look at each other and go, "What in the heck? That is a great throw." He had a bunch of those in that game, didn't he?
Yeah, like the big long one to Hill, like the catch was great. The throw was like, wow, that was special. He's made some like cover 2 hole shot throws that have been impressive. Like I was texting with some of the guys saying like, man, I don't think we know how lucky we have been over the last, like you watch a guy like Jaron and Zach, I'm just like, dude,
Back
that
to
is
back,
like,
right?
holy cow. That is like, anyways, we've been lucky to watch those guys play at the level that they play. And the throws have just become common to us, like viewers, that one day we're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, that guy, like, because you just don't see throws like that consistently for that many years at a university. I guess at BYU, with the quarterbacks we've had come through, but I've been really impressed with him.
What's it like for a safety, since you played safety, what's it like for a safety to try and contain a Jaron Hall?
It's a nightmare for defenses because he extends the play. And when you're not like a 4-3 guy like me, you got to hold and grab and get a little bit, when you play a quarterback like that or a team like that, honestly, you got to be really, really physical up front and just slow people down through physicality. But when you have a team that's physical and you also have a quarterback that's like an NFL guy that can make throws, like I played against my senior year, Kaepernick, Andy Dalton, Christian Ponder, and
that's not a very good group. Holy mackerel!
Andy Dalton. Did I say him?
Yeah, Andy with TCU. Yeah, he was great and has been great.
Jake Locker. I'm thinking of Jake Locker.
Yeah.
So those are the four, like those are like 4 first round, early second round guys. And Kaepernick was by far the best because he could hurt you so bad at his feet. And he was enough of an accurate thrower. But he wasn't. I mean, Jaron can throw like not even a comparison between the way that those guys throw the ball. Plus, Jaron's as fast as he is. So, nightmare type stuff. Fortunately for us, like Wyoming didn't have any burners, that could. Anyways,
interesting. So we were watching, and I wonder what your thought is on this, and how things change so dramatically. So those first 2 drives, Wyoming goes down, and they're like 7 runs into the game in 2 drives, and they're averaging 9.7 yards a carry. And we're all going, what in the heck? This is what happened last week. Then just like that, magically, for the rest of the game, they average 2 yards a carry. And when it's all said and done, BYU holds them under 300 yards, and they average 3.6 yards a carry by the end of the game.
Yeah.
How does it so bad to start, and then all of a sudden they got to figure it out, and then Wyoming can't run the ball anymore? What happens?
Yeah, I actually, to me, so I think there's a couple of things that happen in those type of situations. One, I think as a player, you kind of get like slapped in the face a little bit. There's like some pride stuff that happens when teams are rushing the ball like you, like on you like that. There's this feeling of like, they're going to just try to out physical us, and they believe that they can. So there's that element of like, I need to get my butt in gear. There's also the element of like trying to, it's the first kind of few rounds of a boxing match where you're trying to feel what the other group's going to try to do to you. And it was pretty apparent that Wyoming thought that they could just out physical us. And obviously there were some adjustments made. There's some, to me, it's all, the college football is all about making in-game adjustments. And I think we obviously made the right adjustments. To give them credit, like that running back was a good player, man. Like,
well, he's a Doak Walker Award preseason watch list guy. Like, he's very good.
I didn't know that. That makes sense. Like, you watch him run and the way that he moved, like, he's a good player. And we were pretty thin. It seemed like we lost some dudes up front, and so some of the guys filling in, kind of getting their first reps and getting a feel for what that looks like. It just takes a little time. If I was looking at that, and this is probably how Tuiaki looks at it, it's like, okay, there's not a guy on the outside that I feel like can beat us. I'm just going to load the box and make this quarterback try to make some throws, which eventually we did, and he couldn't. And we got some sacks and some good coverage sacks, and the rest is history. But yeah, the adjustment was definitely big time.
Yeah, and a lot of those young guys got some important reps. I think you're right. They probably did learn to adjust and play at that speed because they hadn't before. There's a bunch of young guys in that defensive line. Micah Harper, who they had big plans for, and then he got an injury, and now they're just kind of bringing him back, and he's back healthy again. So we're seeing the guy that they thought they'd have a couple years ago. But guys getting reps. And now, with about one exception, everybody's coming back this week. So what does that say for the depth when those young guys all got a chance to play, and now all the veteran guys are coming back? That's got to be good, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's good for now. It's good for later. You always are, you don't know how those young ones are going to react in the moment. And that's a perfect game for them to get some reps and get a feel for how quick the game is. And then just overall from a confidence level, they're more prepped and ready. When you have to prep for a week and you're going to be a starter, I actually remember starting my first game, David Tafuna, he separated his shoulder in a fight in practice, which I was like, okay, man. So I worked with Kellen, and you prep, and you just look at the game differently when it's actually your time to like either make plays or get plays made on you. Like you prep differently, you look at the game differently, and so the more chance that those young guys get, the better obviously the better off that we're going to be both in the short term and the long term, because the way college football is now, you're one play from a guy getting his cap ripped off, getting ejected. Like that wasn't really the case for me, at least.
And no targeting eliminating you from a game immediately.
Oh.
Yeah, right. That's right. Like you got to be ready, because this guy might get a bogus targeting call, or it might be a legit one, but you actually have to play. Where it was a little different. Even the way that they handle injuries. Like, I hate to be like one of those guys, like, oh, in the glory days, like, I think medically, the way that we train and take care of players and athletes has evolved over the last 10 years. And so it just forces you to have depth. Otherwise you'll just get eaten alive.
Yeah. Way more conservative. I will say this, when I played, and even when Andrew played, you got sent back out there in situations where
they
you
rubbed dirt on you.
absolutely would never get sent back out now. So,
that's where they said, hey, put some dirt on that. Get back out there.
Yeah.
It's like, how many fingers do I have up? And Andrew's like, 4. Like, well, 3. That's close enough. Get back out there.
Yeah. Well, no, it was, hey, let me find a teammate that will help me remember these 3 words in the concussion protocol, so that when the guy comes back and asks me what are the 3 words, he can just whisper them to me. Like, it's different, and it's good, right?
It's good. It's all good. So
it's all good stuff.
So what about Utah State? You went 2-1 against the Aggies in your time. What's your thought on this week's game? What it means? Maybe a little scouting report for us.
Yeah. So the in-state games are interesting because there's a whole different energy that comes from playing the in-state games. So it's almost like the record stuff doesn't really mean anything or as much. Like, the last thing as a player you want to do is think, oh, these guys are 1-3, and like, I hope they don't think that. I know that Utah State's not going to feel that way. I mean, there's no pressure on Utah State, right? I mean, they're in a good spot from a pressure perspective. So I love the in-state game. I always loved competing against. That game always mattered to me. It mattered to the team. We're kind of Utah State's in a peculiar situation. I was actually down at work today, and there's a bunch of Utah State fans. And of course, like, I do my best to just give those guys a hard time.
Of course you do.
It's an obligation.
It's so easy right now. And being from Ogden, and my dad playing at Weber State, like,
oh yeah.
Anyways,
you got that going for you too.
I got that. I got, UNLV stuff. I've got it all.
Why hey, Andrew, why do these guys take such offense when people say that Utah State University in Ogden? Why do they not like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. whenever I tell people I'm from Ogden too, they do either think I'm either a gangster or that I went to Utah State, because people legit sometimes think that. But the game's interesting. I feel like it's kind of a trap game because one, it's in-state, and two, they've lost some games, and so obviously they're going to be motivated. I'm curious to see at the quarterback position what they do.
They could go with the Laga kid.
Bonner's
or stick
have
with
they
Bonner.
talked about that?
8 interceptions and only, what is it? 8 interceptions and 6 touchdowns.
It's hard for Blake Anderson to sit him
That's-
down because he brought him with him.
That's
He
scary bad.
He brought him with him, so there's that. But he's also, at this point in time, like you got to make some sort of a change or adjustment. Otherwise, like, people check out, and where they're 1-3, like, to me, I would start that young kid and say, I'm gonna give him reps. Maybe they look at it like, hey, we're not gonna start him because we're going into Provo and we're playing an in-state game. But Utah State is always, like, watch them last year. Holy cow, they were a good team. They made really good plays. They had some really good athletes. So it's going to be interesting to see, kind of what they try to do schematically. I'm not quite sure, honestly. I don't think they know.
Now they're averaging 15 points a game. I'm not sure there's a strategy behind any of that.
I don't remember Utah State averaging 15 points a game. And,
no.
And like what Andrew's talking about, that's a hard decision that Blake's got to make, because if you do go with the Laga's kid, and he falls flat on his face, then where do you go? That's a hard thing. And do you say, you know what, BYU's really good this year, and maybe we ride this thing out another game, and then we get into where the competition's a little,
Conference.
we have a little more opportunity, and then I play the kid if things. I don't know. I would be talking to myself. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. I'm glad I'm not in the position that Blake's in right now, because that is not an easy decision to make.
Yeah, no, it's not. And it's the other hard thing is, like, they won the conference last year, and he was, the quarterback was, they returned Bonner, he was there. And so that's the other hard thing is, I think, he probably feels some loyalty from that aspect as well. To me, the keys to the game, to me, like, offensively, like, rush the ball, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we can rush the ball, we're going to be in a good spot. And then, like, where you get a team that's, like, desperate like this, and they start to do some of the trick stuff, like, you got to eliminate the big plays, or the trick plays, the long plays. If you can eliminate those and make Utah State sustain a consistent drive and make play after play during a drive, like, BYU's got obviously a really good chance to perform really well. To me, those are the two things that I've thought about as they kind of enter this game.
It's a great opportunity for BYU to have ESPN all to themselves on a Thursday night. For Hall, there aren't many nights left where he gets his own night.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's an NFL game on Prime, if you can find it or subscribe to it, but ESPN's just right there. So you got Hall. It's really an opportunity for Hall to establish himself and then to back it up against Notre Dame and Arkansas. And, for Miles Davis, and the Aggies are 118th in stopping the run. If he's legit, he's going to have a huge night against these guys.
It'd be nice to get him some confidence going into Notre Dame.
I think that's a huge opportunity for BYU, despite Utah State's 1-3.
Yeah. To me,
and Gunner's back.
That's spot on. And Gunner's back. I'm excited to watch him play. I don't know what the extent of his injury, but I'm excited that he's feeling healthy enough to play.
We were talking about it. And this is an interesting one, Andrew. So, and the only reason we're freely talking about it now is because his mom tweeted about it. So I'm like, okay, if his mom's talking about it, then I guess we can talk about it.
It's public information.
Right. So when he fell on the ball before the season, he injured his kidney.
It was like the first Saturday of fall camp.
And so they had to do a series of scans and wait till his kidney was healthy again. Like, so that's not something you mess around with. But
no,
the only thing, like, he was back where he could do whatever he wanted from a workout perspective. He just couldn't be hit. And so his injury is so different than most injuries. I mean, he's been lifting like a crazy man, running, like he's been training for the combine, running speed ladders and doing cutting drills and all this stuff. So he's not your typical guy coming back from an injury. he's going to come back unbelievably fresh and unbelievably fast Thursday night.
Yeah.
Because it's not a leg or an arm or a shoulder or a hip or anything like that.
Yeah.
And the good news is the scan, at least according to his mom, he's like ready to roll. And so I feel
awesome.
like this is the kind of injury where he could come back and look really fast out there, which I think will be fun. So what's your thought on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest part for him, coming back from an injury like that is more mental, right? Like it's a physical game, and that stuff maybe is in the back of your mind, but you think about what he does and what like a healthy Puka does for Jaron and the whole team, right? You're all of a sudden stretching the field, and everyone talks about, oh, well, the tight ends, those guys will only help because everyone knows that we've got a couple of now one NFL guy tight end. Like if I'm a safety, that's where I'm spending my time, man.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you got a guy that can blow the top off, and maybe two guys because Hill is like playing out of his mind, it just changes the dynamic of how teams prepare for you, and they have to play you much more honest.
Andrew Riley Nelson's coming up in just a bit. Andrew Rich is with us on the Wise Guys, and bring your questions, and we'll get after him there.
Let's ask a couple of these. So Earl Carr is asking us, do you have a favorite memory from playing the Aggies when you played?
Ooh, well, I have a bad memory. I'm not going to share that one. My favorite would probably be my junior year. I had actually a really good game. They played us tough. They had Robert Turbin and they had Bobby Wagner, and they had some really good athletes, and they were kind of just starting to crest that hill of being a really good team. So I would say that my junior year was the best. My sophomore year, so Kellen's senior year, you'll probably remember this. We beat them by like probably 30, and they scored a touchdown maybe in the last like couple minutes. And honestly, we walked off like it felt like we had lost the game. Like their fans had lost their minds because they scored, and we were nationally ranked. That was a weird experience. And then I actually got injured my senior year.
Yeah, Duff Tittle, BYU Sports Information, was telling me today about this hit that he saw you take in the Aggie game.
In that senior year game.
That was just brutal.
Yeah, that was a bad one. The way that it was kind of, playing in the opponent's place, if you guys remember, Jaime Hill actually got fired after that game, our defensive coordinator. Right. It was kind of a turning point in our season. And so that was definitely not a great memory, but it was the start to a good thing.
But your junior year, you beat that team your junior year, right? And
yes.
And people forget that Bobby Wagner, like he was arguably the best defender in the National Football League for a decade.
Yeah.
Right? Oh yeah.
And Turbin was a phenomenal, NFL caliber running back. To beat that team was something special.
Yeah, they were good, man. They had some really good athletes. I made a play on 4th and 1 on Robert Turbin in the open field, and I like to say that it was me that was athletically superior to Robert, but that's not the truth. He kind of slipped because our grass was a little bit wet. But I was like, he slipped simultaneously as I was making a play on it, so it looked like it was a better play than
he got afraid. He slipped on purpose because he was afraid you were going to just jack him.
No, he was a good player, and that guy like standing next to him. Like, I don't even remember.
His guns. His guns loaded. Were all time. Yeah.
In fact, the next year, maybe I'm trying to remember what year he was, because the year he hurt us really bad one year at BYU. That might have been after I left, but that was a good year. Obviously, offensively, we were clicking and scoring the ball, and that was probably my best memory.
That was a fun one. Tyson Price is asking us. He says, "Hey Andrew, how many games do you think BYU wins this year? So what do you think they'll finish with?"
Can I pull up their schedule? Can you guys tell me?
Yeah, we can tell you. So here's who's left. So right now they're 3-1, right? And left is
Utah State,
Yep.
Notre Dame, Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull it up right here.
East Carolina, Liberty, Boise State, Utah Tech, and Stanford.
It's interesting because Boise State's down this year. You know,
Dude,
Utah State
I
is down this year. We thought they'd be playing the two best teams in the Mountain West this year, and Utah State and Boise State, and they're both down. You know, Wyoming might be the best team in that league.
I think they are.
And that was not who. It was either Wyoming or Fresno State right now, are the two best teams in that league. San Diego State's also good, but not as good as they've been.
I think we get Notre Dame.
Yeah,
I think going to Arkansas.
Arkansas's coming up here, so Notre Dame's neutral in Vegas. Arkansas's coming up here. Yeah,
that's going to be a good one. They're good, man.
Yeah, they're good.
Arkansas is staying good. Liberty's another that's going to be a tough one, like a surprisingly hard game.
And that's at Liberty.
They're at Liberty. Their QB left, right? They're really good with Malik. So I think we win that one.
East Carolina at BYU.
We go 2 out of 3 there. We beat East Carolina.
Boise State at Boise.
We're gonna lay it on K-pop up at Boise State.
Okay. And then Utah Tech. That's Dixie, the old Dixie at BYU, and then Dixie, at Stanford.
At Stanford, I mean, Arkansas's. I think Arkansas and Notre Dame. If we go 2-0 against those teams,
they're top. You're saying they're 11-1 and in the top 12 at that point.
Yeah, we're in really good shape. I'm a blue guy. Obviously, I want BYU to win. I think we might go. Maybe we split, right?
Right.
I think we could win. I think we could win 10 games.
So 10-2. And you want to know what? At the beginning of the season, like we were all saying, I put the over under at 9.5 is what I was saying. Yeah. And now I'm with you. I might change it to 10 as my over under. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that obviously the glaring toughest game that we have. I think Notre Dame to me doesn't have the quarterback that is going to be knocking down giants unless they make a change there. Arkansas is a good team, and they're a physical team, and that quarterback is good,
dynamic, yeah.
And athletes in space have always caused problems for us, and that's what Arkansas is. The other teams. I was watching Boise losing to UTEP, and I text my friends like, only if Utah and Boise State and Utah State could lose like in the same week.
Would that be the dream? Is that the trifecta dream of all dreams for you?
That's the trifecta dream.
It might be this week. It may be this week.
I want whatever Coach K-Pop's coaching to be good, but other than that,
you want his position group to be good, but not that school.
Yeah.
A couple more questions for Andrew Rich tonight, and then we've got 5 quick hitters before we'll let you go. We sure appreciate your time here on the Wise Guys. Some of your big hits. September 5th, 2009, Cougars go to Dallas Cowboys Stadium, beat Oklahoma 14-13. Sooners ranked number 3. Your defense holds them to 13 points. What was your favorite moment from that day?
I mean, obviously, them seeing the field goal fall short. I think the moment for me that was really cool, like personally, right? Like I had played as a sophomore, but like actually being like a starter going into a game, playing, the number 3 team ranked, number 3 ranked team in the country, Heisman Trophy winner. Like that was a moment for me that was really special. Like, man, a lot of hard work's been put in to get there. So that was really cool. And then just feeling like we could play with what you would consider to be a top tier, school in the country, like athletically. I felt it just did a lot for my personal confidence as far as my ability to play. But really, like if you think about that win, we didn't have Harv.
That's right.
Seeing a guy like Brian Correa, who wasn't on any scouting report, come in and just tough as nails, play really, really well. Obviously, Max made some big plays. The celebration with coaches and just all the time and effort and energy put in an off season to go into that game. That was really cool. That was another game where you look in the stands, like you look in the crowds, like BYU, like there were so many fans at that game.
That was great. It was great.
We're playing down in Oklahoma country, obviously close to Texas, and we had so many people there, and the support was amazing. I always laugh because everyone's like, oh, well, Sam Bradford got hurt. I'm like, oh yeah, they just pulled out their 5-star quarterback and added another 5-star that broke every high school throwing record ever. I feel really bad for him. So so those are some of the special highlights of that one.
That was a pretty fun one. Hey, Brian Correa, Davis High boy.
Yeah.
So he and my son
dude.
Landon went and won a state championship, beat Cottonwood like 52-51 or something crazy like that. So Brian was no stranger to winning, but what a night he had. Unbelievable. So, okay, next one, Andrew. November 28th, 2009. You've got an interception and a 52-yard return in BYU's 26-23 overtime victory against Utah. What sticks out to you on that one?
Well, the pick was a great highlight for me. Remember we were playing cover 2 and they ran a tight end and they thought we were just going to run like a Tampa 2 and the middle linebacker was going to run and I cheated. The physicality and just the raw emotions of that game were amazing. That was the first time in however long that also Tom had allowed us to wear the Royals.
Yes.
So the energy was like extra. Just a good old fashioned battle, man, with some really good athletes from the other side that wanted to win. And I'm so glad that we won this last year because that was the last year we had won.
Right.
We had beat Utah and it had been a really long time. And so, as a kid, you dream of playing in those type of environments where it's so loud. Like the energy is just, you're in the locker room and you can just feel the people before the game just going like that. That's special. And that's why, you remember those moments forever. And even watching like highlights, like my little kids will pull up BYU games and sometimes I'll see that and like, you can't really explain to them what that feeling is like. And that was a special one for sure.
2010, December 18th, couple of interceptions against UTEP in the New Mexico Bowl. You're named the defensive MVP.
Yeah, I got a dream catcher as the trophy for that bowl. I still have that thing.
That's cool.
So that game was special to me for a couple of reasons. One, UTEP was actually one of the very few schools that had offered or given me an opportunity to play out of high school. And the only reason that they looked at me is because Coach Price, who had coached at Weber State, he coached my dad at Weber State. My dad made a phone call, and Coach Price had just came from Alabama after that big scandal.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was fitting that my last game would be played against a guy that I admired and that coached my dad. That senior year was a hard year. We won the first game and lost 4 straight, and it was a battle to try to get to be bowl eligible. And, we were in New Mexico playing in a bowl game where, we'd been in Vegas previously. So we went from like living this cool, getting all these cool gifts to like, hey man, you guys are going to go to this balloon museum.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely
it's a land of enchantment for a variety of reasons. Land of
enchantment, yeah, green chili burgers. But what was special about that particular year or that, for me, I learned just a ton about just teamwork and overcoming adversity. And quite honestly, you guys, I could look across our roster and I felt like every team probably was more athletic than us. And, Bronco, if you remember, like we got to change things. We got to change the way we're doing things. And Bronco started wearing a gray shirt, and I think getting fined by Nike every week because it was the shirt that we all wore underneath our jerseys because it was a time to just change. And that was a good learning moment for me. It's always hard when you have a tough season under like your watch, right? I feel like it was under my watch. But you know what, we ended on a good note, and that was a hard year, but I, again, learned a lot, gained a lot of respect for my teammates that stuck it out. And you kind of, when you get in those moments where you lose and you have some struggles, you get to learn about really who's in it, and made some lifelong friendships and that year.
Which prepares you better? Like, so now, Andrew, I tease Josh that you run Domo. right? So I know that you run Domo.
I wish.
And
Hey, tell him to. Yeah. Never
so
mind, like I said.
so now that you're running Domo, and by the way, Andrew has a very prominent role at Domo. Does a phenomenal job there. I'm not just. I know he doesn't run it. I know Josh and those guys run it. But you know what? Andrew might as well run it because he's taking care of that sales force and doing a phenomenal job.
Well, our friend Greg Olson's his PR.
Yeah. Greg, our good friend, works with you.
Okay.
He's got terrible Salesforce hygiene, but he's a good guy.
Yes, exactly. but the question I wanted to ask was which prepares you better for a role in after football like you have now, where you've got to deal with people and coach them up and do all of that? Is it the tough year, that senior year, or is it the glory year when you and Kellen were playing together and you were ranked nationally and just spanking people? Which is better preparation, or maybe are they both preparation in a way?
Yeah, I think there's kind of two aspects to me. One, like, adversity is the master teacher. And all truth lies in adversity, in my opinion. Like, you really find out who you are when you're faced with adverse situations. And so, to me, adversity is a must in order to learn. Now, what's great about winning is, like, you look at those really good years and how leadership can impact winning, but also preparation, the right people, putting people in the right place. So I think that there's two, really both allow you and prepare you. Like, if you can taste what it's like to win and to be under the spotlight and to have those experiences, like, those are really valuable too, because you're able to see, wow, my hard work has paid off and has allowed me to be successful. The adverse situations, while they're not, always loved, they really are that, that's what allows you to get a really good bearing on who you are and what you believe, as well as the people around you that are facing similar adverse situations. So my transition from football to work has been, there's everything is so relevant: winning, losing, happy, sad, hard conversations, good conversations, like, all those things translate. And that's why I love college sport. That's why I love sports. And that's why I love youth to get involved in sports, because it teaches those experiences, maybe not at a huge level, but from a, it teaches those things. And so I'll never, everyone's like, well, you're going to let your kid play football? I'm like, are you serious? How many opportunities this thing's created for me? How many lessons I've learned? Have I been knocked around and had some surgeries? Yeah. But you know what? It's taught me a ton.
I think he's ready for 5 questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that answer has you ready for 5 questions.
Yeah, we do the 5.
Let's go.
We do the 5 rapid fire. You don't even think about them. You just answer them. First thing that comes to your head. We're going to start with your favorite sports movie.
Rudy.
You know what? That was on last night. I was flicking through the channels and Rudy was on, and I cannot. If it's on, it doesn't matter what else is on. I stop.
Everything stops.
Although I do feel like people have been giving Rudy some shade. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, Joe Montana did. He kind of bagged on Rudy, but Rudy, easily for me.
You know what? I might punch Joe when I see him just for that comment.
He
if you're going to do that, will you record that?
Do you know what? I think Joe's just mad that Rudy's a BYU guy now.
He could be.
Yeah.
We brought him over.
Yep, we brought him over
I actually loved Notre Dame growing up, and that's partly why I loved it. Like, I had it with I was watching my kids maybe a few years ago, and I literally, like, was trying to hide because it made me tear up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I just, it's that stuff's real. So Rudy.
That's a great one. How about favorite singer or band?
Ooh. Right now, my favorite, I really like Morgan Wallen right now, but I would say,
he's a country
overall, guy. The Beatles are, like, I don't know how they're iconic to me. My dad and mom listen to them all the time.
That's a
everybody
great
knows
answer.
that multiple generations know the Beatles. So that's kind of, you go Morgan Wallen, so you're showing your countryside, right? And then you go with an old classic in the Beatles. That's pretty, that's, for a quick answer, that's pretty well thought out.
Favorite breakfast cereal?
Oh, right now I'm mixing peanut butter Chex with chocolate Chex.
What do you mean you're mixing? Is that even legal? Can you mix your own Chex?
Oh yeah, you definitely can. You go peanut butter checks, because if you have one by themselves, like it's a little bland. But if you mix those things together with some vitamin D milk,
I'm telling you,
it'll be
the thing that I
That
appreciate
sounds
here is
outstanding.
anybody that comes to this show and throws out some healthy breakfast cereal, we can't even deal with that. That has to be some type of sugar cereal or it's not real.
Who said shredded wheat?
Somebody said shredded wheat and we're like, what?
How's that?
That's a facade. That's fraudulent.
They lied, didn't they? They
Was
just
it Dan
flat out
Forsman?
lied.
Did Dan Forsman say
I
shredded
think
wheat?
Dan Forsman said shredded wheat, and then he backed up and he goes, but you have to put like 6 teaspoons of sugar on it. I'm like, no.
He'll never. Don't
No.
invite Dan to the show. Nope. That's a terrible answer.
All right, favorite defensive back, whether it's college or pro. Your favorite
like
one.
Current
Or past.
It could be all time.
Ooh, man. You know, I loved the Hawaiian Punch, Aaron Francisco, man.
Oh yeah.
That guy's a legend for a lot of reasons for me. But if I was gonna go like NFL, I might get some hate for this, but like I love the way Eric Weddle played football.
No, you're not going to get any hate. Everybody loves Eric Weddle. He's like
that dude. Yeah, that guy could do it all, and he's
Eric transcends the you in my mind, and I'm trying to think. Does his wife have some ties to be? I don't know, but
yeah, there's some.
I think there's some kind of a tie. But
yeah, I don't really know, but I loved watching Eric Weddle play football. Even, I mean, when he was at the U, like holy cow, like he was special.
You'll never hear Dave or I bad talk Eric Weddle. We got tons of respect for him. There's a few Utes that we'll
bad talk a lot of people, but we don't.
Not Eric Weddle. Not Eric Weddle. So okay, and then your favorite BYU moment, and it doesn't. We found out from Margin Hooks last week that it doesn't even have to be a football moment if you don't want it to be. He laid one on us that it just took us back. It wasn't a football moment. So your favorite BYU moment, it can be a football moment, but it doesn't have to be.
So my when I think about BYU, is what I think about. My sophomore year, I transferred from Snow College, and I got to BYU. Kellen could probably tell you this. I did not love my experience. I didn't really see eye to eye with my position coach, and I wasn't really not a confrontational guy. I'm a team guy, and I actually quit after spring ball. I told Bronco that I was done playing, and Bronco, we had some conversations. I went back the following day. You know, there's some spiritual aspects to that I won't get into, but he called me every week the whole summer, not to even, I was dealing with some emotional and mental challenges as well. And he was just really good to me and just wanted to know how I was doing. He showed up to my house the week before fall camp and said, "Hey man, whether you play football or not, I think you're supposed to be at BYU." And he basically said, "We don't really need you," like in a roundabout nice way. He was like, "Yeah, I don't think you're going to like make a huge impact for us, but this year, but I think you should be at BYU." I hadn't worked out, and I, was kind of fighting this feeling. I ended up going back to BYU, obviously. And before I went, I was really stressed about not working out. And he says, "Hey, you'll win the Y run." And at that time, we used to start at the bottom of the Y and do that stupid thing.
Yeah, I won't even walk it, by the way, but that's
and I won it. And it was a weird experience. Like, I'm like, man, this guy like a prophet. That's weird. And the only reason I tell that story, like I met my wife in the Harold B. Lee Library. And so full circle, I'm just grateful for the university. I'm grateful for the people that I had there. That's why that place is, there's a lot of games that we celebrate and won, but that experience, changed my life. And so that's definitely my highlight.
That's great.
That's awesome.
That's great. You're a BYU guy with a BYU story.
Yep.
And
I got a BYU story. Yep.
Won a lot of games, laid out a lot of guys.
Yes, he
from
did.
The safety spot.
Kellen, so Kellen, my oldest, and when Andrew refers to Kellen, of course, he's talking about my oldest that started at free safety there for a couple years, just a few years ahead of Andrew, and he loves Andrew. And when he first came, and when he came back from all that he talked about, Kellen's like, "Wait till you see this dude, Dad. He is going to knock some people out I'm telling you, he's going to knock some people out. And Kellen, who played that position and knows what it takes and learned from Aaron Francisco and then passed it on to Andrew. He loved the way Andrew approached the game and how physical he was. He told me, you got to watch this guy because this is what he's going to do. And he was exactly right. We loved watching it, Andrew.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate, Kellen was a great mentor and was awesome. Was an awesome teammate. So yeah, those bonds you create in the locker room never leave, and I see Kellen once a year, probably some random thing. And, you can look a teammate in the eye and, it's there. Like that bond doesn't break, even though it's been years and we're in different places. So
always brothers.
Hey, you're first class. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. This is a really cool show you guys do. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Love having you, Andrew. Give my love to your family, especially a big hug to your dad. All right.
Definitely.
All right, brother. We'll see
Andrew
you.
Rich, outstanding safety at BYU, and man, he could hit.
Oh,
he could hit.
Yeah, Kellen's like, wait till you see this dude. And then when we'd watch and Kellen was done, he would tell me, I told you, that guy just brings it, and he would knock some dude. I kept worrying that Andrew's going to knock himself out the way he was hitting people.
DJ, can you put up that after further review graphic? And we want to tease next week on that show. We're going to look back at Utah State, the last blast, the battle for the old wagon wheel. Might be the last one ever in our lifetime. We will see. We'll also preview Notre Dame. That's next Tuesday, 7 Eastern on the free BYU TV app, just before an all-new Wise Guys here at wiseguys.com,
Hey,
Twitch and YouTube.
I'm going to be here next week, but I'm not going to be here. But
Blaine
I'm
will be in
going
New
to
York,
be here.
but he'll be
But
here.
I'm going to join the show from New York. So we're going to try an experiment. I'm going to join the show from New York, from my homeland.
Let's go over a couple of nuggets while we wait for Riley to join us.
Yeah.
BYU in the top 25, we mentioned they're number 19. As for their opponents, Oregon's up to 13. They host Stanford this weekend. Baylor is at 16. They host Oklahoma State. They're number 9.
I think Baylor has a chance because they're at home hosting Oklahoma State. Baylor wins that game. I feel like Baylor, even though BYU beat them, I think Baylor's going to move up even more.
Yeah. And then Arkansas.
Baylor looks like the real deal. And you know what? Arkansas looks like the real deal, too.
They're number 20 after a missed field goal at the end of the A&M game, but they host number 2 Alabama on Saturday. We'll see what they got.
And by the way, BYU should be rooting for those 3 schools. Anybody that's a BYU fan should be wanting every one of these 3 schools.
I have a hard time doing that for Oregon, but I will.
You know what? You want them all in the top 10. You want every one of those in the top 10, and then you want to beat Arkansas. And how about having 2 wins against 2 top 10 teams?
Yeah, that's not going to hurt.
Then there's no argument. That's what you want.
91st meeting Thursday, BYU and Utah State in the old wagon wheel. The Cougars lead that series 50-37. They've tied 3 times.
Yep.
BYU's won the last 2.
Yeah, and remember that Jaron Hall didn't play in that game last year. That was Baylor Romney started.
Who started, and he got
knocked out. And
our quarterbacks get hurt playing the Aggies.
And then Jake Conover came into that game in the second half. But remember, they didn't need a quarterback last year
No.
because Tyler Algier had 22 attempts for 218 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game last year. My goodness, was he a beast.
Our next guest is not going to like the fact that we said they didn't need a quarterback, but they
needed
really didn't.
somebody to hand the ball or pitch the ball to Tyler Algier. That's all they really needed.
It's BYU Utah State week. Our next guest started a season at quarterback for Utah State, and then he played 3 seasons at quarterback for BYU. I think he's the only guy on the planet that's done that, so we have to have him on this show. With the Cougars, he threw for over 4,000 yards and 35 touchdowns, ran for 858 yards and 6 more touchdowns. He's an analyst for BYU football broadcasts on the BYU Sports Network. It is always our pleasure to welcome Riley Nelson to the Wise Guys, who literally gave his all to the Cougars on the football field. You gave your ribs, you gave your back, you gave your knee.
Man.
I think you gave your ankle, and you may have had a few concussions, but you did it all.
That's quite the intro, as only you can do.
Yes.
And this being the 10th anniversary of me graduating from Utah State, and the last time I picked up a football in a meaningful, in an actual meaningful setting, I'll take any introduction I can get at this point.
Right. We were just talking to Andrew Rich, who I know you know Andrew and followed his career, and we started off by like your two. I told him tonight is a cool thing for me because I know both of your dads really well, and you both come from phenomenal stock. Andrew's dad I love and respect, and your dad, of course, I love and respect. Your dad was a good player and was an Aggie, for Pete's sakes. And But he raised you right because he sent you. You know, you started out as an Aggie, but you saw the light. And how could your dad possibly support you coming down to BYU? He used to talk about it. I didn't know how he could possibly do it, but he supported you wholeheartedly coming down to the Y, didn't he?
I mean, let's be honest. As much as we care about schools and representation, in the Nelson household, we appreciate good football. And what my dad saw me play in 2006 for the Utah State Aggies, just being 100% honest, and anybody can go look it up on collegefootballreference.com. That was not good football. So at whatever, sadness or whatever negative emotions he felt by me leaving the Aggies, I think it was at least equally, if not outweighed, by the excitement of me getting to come down and play for the Y, a perennially ranked program. And while it kept me from, playing behind those behemoth, I remember first time he came down to practice at BYU, he just couldn't stop talking about the size of the linemen, right? And all that. So we love good ball above anything else. We love good ball in the Nelson household, and then allegiances to universities or logos come second.
That's
now
number
look,
2.
You're a freshman at Utah State there in 2006. You have 7 starts. You're elected the team captain. Big shot coming out of Logan High School, 84 touchdowns, like a bazillion yards, 4,000 actually according to the books, but we'll go with a bazillion. But Mr. Football from the Deseret News.
4,000 plus.
4,000 plus. So, but you're coming down here. You play in Provo. You don't play in that game. BYU wins 38-0. What do you remember from that night?
With Jason Beck as the starting quarterback, I mean, all you need to know about the state of Utah State's program was John tweaked his ankle the week before against Boston College, and they're like, "Hey, John, why don't you rest it?" Just no, I can play. It's like, trust me, we'll do okay without you. And sure enough, 38-0. I mean, we to me though, that's a good frame of reference for how much the rivalry has improved. I mean, since basically Lavelle took over until the mid 2000s, even the late 2000s. I mean, yeah, there was geography tying you, and yeah, the Aggies used to beat up on the Cougars in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. But I mean, it was not, speaking of the Nelson family love for good football, it was not good football between Utah State and BYU. And as you look from 2010, when they got their first win in I don't know how many years, I'm pretty sure it was close to 30, or no, a little over 20. But in 2010, and then as you look through, I think from 2010 to 2019, those 10 matchups, I think it was 6-4, yeah, right? Just in favor of BYU, and the games got far more competitive. Utah State started winning them. They won a couple in Provo, and it really has brought some excitement to this rivalry just in time for it to kind of be
coming to an end.
Coming to an end essentially.
I want to take you back. So after that freshman, you go out on your church mission and you serve in Barcelona, which, by the way, one of Brendan, my favorite cities. Where I love Barcelona. I'd go there in a heartbeat any summer you want me to go. While on your mission, at what point do you start thinking about, you know what? I think I probably need to go down south and be. Was it while you were on your mission? How did that even happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, keep in mind, and Lark and I ended up spending a lot of time together at BYU, but I was offered for BYU out of high school. I was young for my grade, though. I actually graduated at 17, and this was back in the days when I had a summer birthday, so I graduated and about a month later turned 18. And this was during the 19 age years for a mission, and I had to sit around. Well, they'd already offered a quarterback in our class. He'd already accepted. James Lark was coming to Provo, and the class was full. And so they offered me, but it was for after my mission. And the whole gray shirt thing, I just never felt comfortable with that. I also felt like, I wanted to, gray shirt, you're not on a team, right? So had a great recruitment from BYU. It's just the nature of the way that scholarships shook out and the timing of things. I didn't feel comfortable committing there out of high school, but it left on good terms. I remember talking with Coach Nye Doman, and I was OC. Doman was quarterback coach, and Coach Mendenhall, my recruitment, and just being like, hey, I really do not want to sit around and not be a full-time student and not be on the team for an entire year, mm-hmm, and then go and come back. So that was one of the main reasons why BYU got eliminated in my recruitment out of high school, not for any other reason than that. Anyway, so how did the that's a little bit of backstory. How did it come up during the mission? Well, Utah State's program continued to flounder. And at the time and Aggie fans will remember this, and maybe the real diehard sports fans will, Randy Spetman was the AD at the time. He decides to move on from Coach Guy, lets him go. And within a month before initiating the coaching search, he goes and takes a job. He got offered the AD job at Florida State and takes it.
Yep, so I remember that. Yeah.
Utah State is left without a coach and an AD, and they had a long, dark winter and off-season. And this is coming off the season of, you were seeing no improvement. We won 1 game in 06. They won 3 in 08, and they won 2 in 09. Now, they ended up finding Gary Anderson, who resurrected the program and really laid the foundation for what it's become today. But that all happened after the fact. I wasn't thinking about it because I was only getting bits and pieces and I wasn't really checking in. But what happened was I got an email. I opened up an email one day. And of course, BYU respects the recruiting rules, but they also know how to play the game, right? An email from my dad saying, hey, Coach Doman has been calling me, every once in a while over the last couple of months. But this last week, I got 2 calls from him. I got a call from Anai, and I got a call from Coach Doman just checking in to see how I'm doing. And it was at that point they couldn't initiate a recruitment. But my dad said, I think they want to talk to you, but they know they can't. If you're interested, shoot them an email. And so I shot them an email and, of course, responded back. And they said, whatever's changed, and at that time, their circumstances has changed with the timing of how James went on his mission. And then Max coming back, a lot of things have changed from 06. And again, having those favorable memories of my recruitment from high school, where it didn't work out coming out of high school in 06, it seemed to work out for me coming back in my mission from 09, and the rest is history.
It's quite a journey. Do you remember you and I did a sit-down interview in, I think, 2011, might have been 12.
It was right after 2011,
leading into 12, right?
I'd come back in against Utah State.
Yeah. Big man on campus, and I think, and what was impressive to me, and we're going to obviously march through probably one of the most interesting and exciting drives in the history of the BYU Utah State series here in a moment. But one thing that we noticed is that guys followed you. They played harder for you. The line worked a little harder to protect you. The fans bought into you. What was it? What was the Riley Nelson magic? You didn't go 13-0. You didn't win a national championship or a Heisman Trophy like some of the others that had come through. But we watched this team line up behind you, and it was very impressive. What do you think it was?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One was I talk about, we've got the Nelson lineage, and you mentioned my dad was an Aggie, my grandpa was an Aggie as well, and my great grandpa's name is on the field house, not for football, but for wrestling, and he was a longtime athletic trainer, right? But people say they love sports, right? And people say they're like, we're not even really fans. Like, we love the game to a degree that is very hard to comprehend for the average individual. And in a locker room setting, in a college locker room setting, I think that comes through. You'd be surprised that you'd think all 120 or however many guys are on a roster, you think they all love football, but they don't. Blaine, you can speak to this.
Oh,
Dave,
yeah.
you've been around it enough. There are guys who truly love the game, and guys who are there maybe because they like it, but for other reasons, or it's their only way to get their school paid for, or whatever. I was a kid. If I had to pay my own way, if I had to work the night shift, like I was coming out of high school, I was going to play football hell or high water. And so I loved the game. And that was first and foremost, because it attracted me to other guys in that locker room, which there were a lot who absolutely loved the game. And then second was my teammates weren't dumb. In that 2010 season, we went back and forth, and the locker room was split. The coaching staff was split. The fan base was split. Everyone was split on whether or not we go Riley or Jake. My injury against Florida State, my shoulder injury against Florida State kind of made the decision for everybody. And that's when Jake became the future. And again, this speaks to my love for the game and what my teammates observed. And I think this gets to the core of what you're referring to, Dave, was I didn't throw a pity party for myself. And that didn't even cross my mind. Like, bottom line was, I love the game so much, I was not going to be content to sit and wait my turn if Jake got hurt or something. I wanted to be on the field on Saturdays. Like, I had put in too much work from the time I was 5 years old to sit idly by. And I knew I had the athleticism. I knew I had the work ethic, and I was willing to learn any skill I could. And I really think, you say, what was it? That offseason, going to the coaches, convincing them to let me try out for special teams, making the punt unit, making the kickoff unit, making the punt return unit, and contributing even in a very small, unimpactful way on special teams, up to the point of being thrown in against Utah State. That was what you were seeing. My teammates had observed all that with me. And then when I got kind of thrust into that main position of quarterback, they all, it was put on full display.
It's interesting, Riley. People, when they think about leadership, two names that always come up are you and Brandon Doman. And they always say, what's the formula for leadership? I go, well, followership is what the definition of leadership. If people will follow you, then you're a leader, right? And the common denominator between you and Brandon is Brandon was out playing wide receiver before he played. He was like, get me on the field, let me play, which earned respect of teammates that just said, this dude just plays, and he'll do whatever it takes to help the team. That's the same thing that you did. That's the common thread between the two of you that I believe made a huge difference. And what has that done for you to recognize that, hey, I'll just do whatever it takes to win. I'll do whatever it takes to contribute. How's that helped you since football?
Yeah, it's been great. And I just want, and by the way, thank you, Blaine. I appreciate you saying that. And coming from you, who was a very revered and talented leader in his own right, that means a lot. I will say it does, in the game of football, it does have its double-edged sword, right? In that on 3rd and 8, when you're between the 40s and you should just be content to throw the ball away or check it down, knowing that he's not going to get the first down. It's fine. Doing whatever it takes in that scenario leads to
broken ribs,
rib, back, finger.
Exactly.
But no, I mean, post football, it helps. You just entitlement is one of, and unfortunately it's becoming more and more common in our society, but credit my parents and just really my entire extended family. It was something that simply was not part of the fabric of our family or the fabric of my upbringing. And so no matter how menial, small, dirty, or unpleasant the task, if it needed to be done, the cavalry was not coming. No one was coming to do it for you. It needed to be done. So you go and do it. And that helps in, from relationships, right? Doing whatever it takes to nurture that. And then also for your kids. And then professionally, I mean, it becomes easy, right? Not to get on a diatribe here about the current American work culture, right? But where everyone's looking to try and get away with doing the least amount possible. If you can be one of the ones that's saying, well, heck, I'll dive in, I'll work an honest 40 hours a week. And if it spills over into 50 and 60, it's no skin off my back. In fact, you enjoy it. And it's paid dividends in those things. And then also you just like going back to where I didn't feel sorry, the Jake thing, I didn't feel sorry, or I didn't get sour, I didn't get better. I simply was just forward looking or trying to productively or proactively find another role on the team if quarterback wasn't going to be it. That same thing in life, rather than, I don't spend much time worrying about setbacks or negative events that may happen, because I'm too busy finding what's the next proactive, productive, progressive action that I can take, because it's far more relieving, fun, and like just makes me happy to do that than it is to sit back and analyze why or how or what went wrong.
It's Riley, that's so well said. People always ask me, I said there's 3 types of people, right? And you'll appreciate this. And I know your dad would say the exact same thing, right? There's those that walk by the garbage and it's overflowing, and they throw a can on top of the garbage and it falls on the floor, but they don't even notice. They didn't notice that the garbage is overflowing.
Are you talking about my nephews?
I'm talking about a couple of
nieces
Dave's nephews
at Sunday dinner.
Then there's people that are walking by and they don't really notice, but somebody says, "Hey, did you notice that garbage is overflowing?" And they go, "Oh, yeah. Hey, you know what? Do you want me to take that out? Yeah, could you take that out?" And they're happy to take it out, but they didn't proactively know. Then there's the guys that walk by, the garbage is not even quite full, and they go, "That garbage is going to be full." And so, you know what? I don't know whose responsibility is to take it out, but I can see that it needs to be done. So I will get that done and I will take it out. That's Riley Nelson right there. And you get you a team of people that notice before the garbage is overflowing, and you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to win in your company. You're going to do whatever. And that's who Riley Nelson is.
Are you saying he's a garbage man?
Riley Nelson is a guy that notices what needs to be done
Dave,
before
no
it needs to be done.
Small, no role is unimportant. Garbage man, I'll do it. Anybody who's cleaned the church on a Saturday morning and found that dirty diaper that's been sitting there from the previous Sunday knows how important.
We've all done that.
But you know what? The people that notice that, they also notice what jobs need to be done before they need to be done. That's our guy Riley. 100% Riley. I feel that way about you. I'll take a whole team of you for sure.
Former BYU quarterback Riley Nelson on the Wise Guys. It's Old Wagon Wheel Week. You ready to march through one of the most exciting finishes in the history of this series? You ready for that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go with the medical red shirt. You finished that in 2010. Here comes 2011. First year as an independent for BYU. The Aggies and Chucky Keaton come to town. Jake Heaps has the starting job, but falls behind 24-13 in this game. Bronco makes a change. Did you sense that this was your moment? Before anything of what was about to happen, you're going into the game. Are you feeling like this is the moment I've been waiting for? This is why I came here?
Yeah, not going into the game. In fact, I'll share a little exchange. I was really close with Gary, and Gary said, Gary, before, he's like, hey, they're going to let you play because in the year prior, in 2009, they put a little Tebow package for me together, right? I was backing up Max, and I went in, got a couple carries. Of course, I was in a sling on the sideline in 2010 when we lost up in Romney Stadium, but Gary's like, we're going to see you out there? He goes, I hope not. You know, he's playing. Gary's the consummate. Gary's just so good.
Yes.
Such a good players, right? Anyway, I go, nah, nothing going into the game. I go, I tell you what, tell your D-line, though, they better not hurt Jake, because if they hurt Jake, I'm coming for you, right? Well,
wow.
So, and we had a good little laugh about that. Obviously, they didn't hurt him, but Bronco went ahead and made the change. You said moment. I would not say – I did not feel like this was my moment in that a change was being made. I felt like the coaching staff, because going into that game, we all remembered it was that 2010 game being the first BYU team in who knows how many years, how many decades to lose and losing Logan – right? And then to be facing down the barrel of losing back-to-back. My sense was more, this is probably the only shot I'm going to get. So I better deliver. Otherwise, I truly will be relegated to holding a clipboard for the rest of my career and, you know, scrounging for snaps on special teams.
All right, so you enter the game.
Yeah, you're in there now. You hit Cody Hoffman on a 24-yard touchdown pass with 10:15 left to play to make it 24-20. What are you thinking now?
Yeah, I mean, D at that point, so they scored first play of the game, right? Robert Turbin took it 80 first play of the game, but by that point, I don't think they hadn't scored in the second half, and our defense was doing really well. So I mean, I'm like, plenty of time left. They were struggling. We were running a lot of draw. You could tell they had not prepared at all for quarterback runs, so we were running a lot of lead draw. And then the second thing was they were singling up Cody on the backside. Now, Jake had a lot of chemistry with Ross, and I did too, but I'll just flat out be honest with you. I didn't have as strong as arm. So Cody played the X, which is typically into the boundary or the short side of the field. Ross played the Z. Jake had been feeding Ross a lot of balls. I didn't have as strong as arm. I didn't feel as confident throwing to the field side, to the wide side of the field. Especially with a safety rolled over. So Utah State coming into this game had not prepped for QB run, and they were rolling their safety to the field because Ross had so much success early on in that season, leaving Cody singled up on the backside. So essentially, my plan was continue to do what I can do with my legs and take advantage of Cody having single coverage against a corner who I think he had 5 or 6 inches on, and I had spent a lot of time with Cody. That was the year. So the New Mexico Bowl prior, well, I'll stop. I'll save you guys the chronology.
I love it. I love the detail.
So it's 24-20 still, Utah State until the final.
And be good and use my legs. And I knew we were going to at least get the ball back one more time, which we did. And hopefully you set this up because everybody fast forwards to us getting the ball, with under 2 minutes left and 96 yards to go. But the drive before that, I don't know, Dave, were you going to do this?
No, go ahead. You
go
can do
ahead.
it because you're rolling. Go.
My boy JJ DeLuigi, we marched down
Fumbled.
the field. We get inside the red zone.
Yes.
JJ, so good in that game. He had a lot of catches out of the backfield, and he had played really well that season. Him and Brian Correa kind of switching in that role. We hand him off in a zone. It was great. I actually checked to it because we only had a 5-man box, so we ran an inside zone play. And the hole was there and everything. And I think he had got about 6 or 7 yards, and just the tip of the ball came down, and he coughs it up.
Yeah.
How much time? When did we cough it up left? I think at that point it was like five minutes or so.
Yeah, and I remember that we were all thinking, "Oh no, was that the moment where the air came out of this thing?" Right. Yep. That was the problem.
So they have to punt. And they kick a 67-yard punt. J.D. Falslev, which you'll read in the Deseret News tomorrow, swears he should have called a fair catch, but he took his eye off the ball and it went past his helmet, went all the way to the 4-yard line, and then you get tackled for a 2-yard loss. So
on
you
first
got
down.
On first down.
So you got 98 yards to go to win the game. Are you feeling optimistic?
Great question. I had been drilled, and Blaine, I don't know if this came, I'm pretty sure what Brandon taught me is what been taught. I'm pretty sure it originated with Lavelle. So you were probably taught the same 2-minute protocols, but our protocol as quarterbacks that we were taught by Brandon Doman was, you got to get that first completion. And then after the first completion, get the first down. And then the 2-minute drive starts.
That's exactly right. Yep, always.
Yep. If you try and eat those 96 yards in a single play, we're going to go 3 and out and lose the game. That doesn't give anyone's help. So after that first down, after the first down loss, I was like, I need a completion. They're backing off. I find Marcus Matthews on a little stick route. And then, all right, that was first completion. And I think
your next one, you hit McKay.
Well, you ran first, then you hit McKay.
That's right. So you do Matthews, a QB run, and then McKay, and then another QB run. So that was the sequence. Then you spike it with 1:01 left at your own 34.
Yeah. So to go back to protocols, right? Trying to follow protocols. Well, I hit Marcus, and I think that got us to like maybe 3rd and 7 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And they dropped everybody back. We called 4 verts, and then I signaled comebacks on the out. But the second that I saw them rush 3, and then the 2 middle linebackers that they had on the snap, no one was respecting my QB run. They took depth back to 12 yards. I'm like, all right, get your first completion, get your first down. Right. I knew I could get that first down. The problem was those first 3 downs, I think at that point it was under a minute. And then, so we call a dash play. Roderick runs it a lot today. And
dash, guys, is you set up like it's a regular drop back, and then you either rotate out to the left and roll to the left, or roll to the right. So you set pass straight back, and then they seal the edge and you roll outside. So that's what Riley did there.
You're supposed to, it's a technique that they use on the edge where your tackles kind of invite the rusher inside, and then it gives them a good angle as you pre-planned escape the pocket. They pin the dude inside, and you buy a lot more time. Zach was really good at it. Jaron is lethal at it.
Oh, he's
Roderick,
brutal, yeah.
I love it. Anyway, so McKay runs that on the sideline. Of course, they have safety help over top. But clocks, I knew at this point we had a chunk. So rather than taking off and just going and getting yards, I tried to do scramble drill and was running around. McKay had run a comeback and go on the sideline as I rolled to my right. And then as I came back to my left, the safety had started to come off to cover the underneath defender. So now he was one-on-one with the corner. And he just sprinted towards the middle of the field. I saw him. I just hucked it up to the middle of the field, hoping McKay would do it. Did that. You mentioned QB run down again. Then we spike it. Okay, now we're there. Call comes in from the sideline, 4 verts again, right? Normally 4 verts on that call, what Doman was thinking. And this, again, like, do whatever it takes. I'm a very analytical guy. You can fans probably are used to listening to me now, maybe a little bit too much. Imagine being in my own brain in situations
There's
like
a lot
this,
going
right?
on in there. It's fascinating.
A ton. 4 verts, typically what he's trying to do is out of a 2-by-2 formation is you want to occupy the safety with those two to give you a good shot at a fade. So the call comes from the sideline on a fade. Well, they don't play safety and they don't give help over the slot guys. JJ had a linebacker on him. And I'm like, and JJ was really great. You know, he used to run that running back, the 94H option, right?
Right.
It's been in the offense since like 76.
Doug Scoville put it in.
Yeah. And from the slot down in the goal line, rather than running a seam route, because there's not that much space, it essentially turns into that option route, right? So I kind of give JJ the look. He's looking at me. And essentially, we run this option. He runs the option route, burns the guy inside, knows he's beat. So anyway, sorry, with no safety help, I didn't like the fade. And also they had called it from gun. And I got to admit, I did not love throwing fades from gun because
timing wise, right?
Yeah, I needed to throw that thing confidently. I needed the laces. So I was kind of looking for an out, to be honest. And when they came out and did not have safeties in the back and I saw JJ one-on-one, I was like, ooh, I'm going to take JJ on basically the seam route that converts to the option, beats the dude inside. He knew he was beat. He grabbed him, right? And that's where the clip that everybody's, goes back and watches and it still lives to this day on YouTube. He's got his one arm being held down. His other arm reaches up to grab for the football as the flag comes out from the back judge. And he gets one hand on it, tips up in the air. Marcus, who had done the same thing on the other side of the formation, ran basically had converted a seam to a skinny slant. His route and momentum just took him to the middle of the field where the ball was floating. He caught it. And more than excitement, more than vindication, more than like, this is awesome. I kid you not, my first emotion was relief that we did not have to be the team for the first time in seemingly forever that lost back-to-back games to Utah State.
Can you believe that happened? All that stuff you just said. Can you believe it happened?
It's unbelievable that it happened. It's so funny the thoughts that go through your head, though, right? Like, man, nobody would think that you're saying to yourself and to your teammates, we cannot be the team that loses. I remember in the dorms, Robbie Bosco and I talking one night, and he goes, I'll tell you the one thing I do not want to ever be. And I go, what? And he goes, I don't want to be the first guy that loses to Utah after we've beat them like however many straight times. And he goes, and you know what else? I do not want to be the starting quarterback here when we don't win a championships because we've won like 8 in a row, right? And we're going down the field and we're worried about that. We don't want our legacy to be tarnished. You didn't want your legacy to be tarnished that you would lose back-to-back games to Utah State. And somehow you figure this thing out. So when he catches that ball and he comes down with it, what's that feeling like? What are you thinking then?
Yeah, after relief set in, then it was just like, oh, thank goodness. Like, we got it done. Dapped up the O-lineman. I think I jumped into Matt Reynolds' arms, headbutting all that stuff. Marcus made this big, long loop, and he was not one for celebration. So I was like, what's he doing? Like, playing to the crowd. Turns out he circumnavigated the entire offense because when he had caught the ball on the first completion of the drive, he had hurt his ribs. Like, his ribs were significantly bruised up. He thought they were broken. He didn't want anybody to tackle him or hit him because he was hurting in his ribs. Anyway, I go over there and find Marcus and him first because he had made the play. And then, the defense, all my dudes that I was on punt team with, kickoff team, like, everybody just comes, and it was just a mob from there. Obviously, they come out, defense holds on their last minute desperation. And we actually had this debate in one of our pregame shows. I think it was the pregame show of the Oregon because some fans were questioning the merits of rushing the field, right?
Yeah.
It was probably justifiable against Baylor, but we've had some maybe ones where it was questionable. But it is an honest, real reaction. And whether or not, it's a top 10 team like it was Baylor that gets knocked off in LaVell Edwards Stadium, or it's just the relief and exhilaration of escaping, a complete and utter disappointment at the hands of your rivals for a second year in a row, having those fans come down on the field. And then, then it comes out the YouTube video with the Shrek clip and all that stuff. And it's been codified in BYU legend, which I got to say, we talked about how I ended up in BYU. Like, I was just hoping for an opportunity to play at a great program. The fact that I was able to be part of so many memorable moments, both on the field and off, right? That Oklahoma game, I got to be, I was on the team that did that. The Utah win in overtime, Red Alert versus Tulsa. and we had our equal share of disappointments. Lord knows that 2012 year was,
right,
littered with them, right? But to have all of those things that now 10 years later, and this isn't just on game day. And my coworkers who come down with me as we attend meetings and visit clients in Utah County all laugh. Wherever we go out to lunch, wherever we are, Cougar Nation still comes up and say, "Hey, man, I still remember that day, that play." I never in my wildest dreams thought that was ever going to materialize. So the fact that it has, I'm tickled pink.
Well, you won the game, you won the starting job, and for years,
yes,
mothers could not get their teenage sons to cut their hair, so they would flop out of their helmets.
There's some good and some bad stuff.
So you were a trendsetter, and we love that you're still involved with BYU football, even to this day. And now you're going to call what could be the last Utah State BYU football game, in our lifetimes. We say, well, that's not possible, but it is quite possible. If something's not on the schedule, it's possible anymore.
I don't know that that's going to fit in to the future, and that's a little bit disappointing. But speaking of disappointment, I mean, Utah State's, they're coming into this thing with a disappointing first month. People were picking them to win the league, and they're having a struggle right now. But it is a rivalry game. So give us your keys for this Thursday night for both teams, really.
Yeah, I mean, for the Aggies have to Derek Wright, and I imagine the majority of your audience, probably a mix of college football fans, but the majority of them probably Brigham Young, so they probably don't pay that close attention to Utah State. I still do, but like Derek Wright, who's on the Panthers, he's on practice squad, but he's been elevated for a week. He was there. He was a good wide receiver for them, and Devin Tompkins.
Oh, Tompkins was phenomenal.
They covered a multitude of sins in that offense, right? And so the offense is pretty simplistic. They try and beat you with tempo and spacing and some things like that. But ultimately, you need dudes who can create separation at the top of routes. They are yet to find that guy in this 2022 season. So somehow they got to find it. Or I don't know. I'm actually up here in Logan tonight. I had work up here, and then we brought my kids up here, so I'm up here with my.
You're broadcasting under in enemy territory. You're broadcasting tonight.
This is the first time I think that's ever happened in
behind
our show.
the lines. Nice.
Yeah. When does this air? If I say that I'm doing, reconnaissance work, is that
no? It's first of all, it's on live
We're
right
live,
now. By the way,
so
all over the world.
We've already,
and then tomorrow it'll be put up as a podcast, and it's always on the YouTube channel available. So basically, people are with us live, and then from this point forward, they can go access it anytime they want.
Let us know if we need to send a rescue crew up there to get you out of there.
If we need to get you out, let us know.
Cat's out of the bag, but and I was just about to say I don't have any intel because nobody's hinted at it up here, and I don't have any sources left anymore that are going to tell me anything of substance. But Bonner blew out his knee late last year, so he's coming back off an ACL only 9 months into his recovery. He doesn't look like the same player. The receiver, they don't have the same caliber of receivers, or at least they haven't found them. I wouldn't be surprised if, we just talked about a quarterback switch that changed the fortunes for BYU. I wouldn't be surprised if Utah State tries to do something like that. Cooper Lega, many BYU fans will be familiar with him because he prepped at Orem High.
Right.
He's up here. He played in their bowl game. He's come in when called upon and made plays. He's a guy that can run around, maybe can change the complexion of this offense. But, I mean, they got to establish the run, but they haven't had a tough time of doing that. They just don't have open dudes, and Bonner their quarterback does not seem to be playing with much confidence. So they somehow have to find that between now and Thursday. For BYU, I mean, honestly, you look at, so I said it's been 4. So in 2010, and I'm not saying I would have made the difference or that they, even after my performance at Florida State, they would have sat me regardless of my injury, right? But I had an injury, sat that game out. True freshman QB loses, right? You look at 14, that was the year Taysom broke his leg against them, right? And Christian Stewart comes in and throws 3 picks in the second half. 2017, already you were down because who started that game? Critchlow, Coy Detmer, and Bo Hodge all played, but who started?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'd like to think it was Hodge because he was ahead of those other two in the rotation.
Okay, so Hodge started it, but then Critchlow came in, got hurt, and we ended the game with Coy Detmer.
Right.
Obviously, up here. 2018, still that team was still trying to find its footing. Young Zach Wilson, and by the way, first round draft pick, a quarterback, and draft picks throughout. That was just a juggernaut of a Utah State team in 2018. But one of the common threads, 3 out of the 4 losses, BYU was facing quarterback injuries, right? So I hate to boil it down to one player, but like keep Jaren's jersey clean, keep him upright in the pocket, let him do what he does, which is first and foremost, look, he's got the skills. He threw a couple of lasers that like he might as well have been throwing a baseball from the outfield, like he was doing a few years ago for the Cougars, but doing it with the football on Saturday nights. Like all those things aside, his greatest asset is his decision making and the fact that it doesn't change regardless of the circumstances of the game. The dude is unflappable. So if they can just keep him upright in the game, things will be pretty good for the Cougars. So my key is Bonner's got to find some confidence. He's got to find, his special juice, and then the Cougars just have to, protect Jaren. And it should take, if Utah State can do that, they're still going to have an uphill climb, just because I think there's a lot bigger talent disparity than there's been in recent matchups. And if the Cougars can do that, they should be able to take care of business pretty readily.
Taysom Hill concurs to keep the quarterback upright in the Utah State game.
And this offensive line, especially in pass, has been really, really good. Their protection's been
Should we do
good.
5 questions?
Yeah, we got to do 5 questions with Riley. So these are ones you don't even think about them, Riley. You just answer them, right? So
here we go.
Yep. So favorite sports movie?
Bull Durham.
Oh, baseball movie.
We've been doing this show. I think we've had like 20 shows. This is the first
Bull Durham. But by the way, Andrew Rich.
By the way,
said
I'm a
Rudy.
sucker for everything Kevin Costner. I probably have to say Tin Cup.
So Tin Cup was on last night, Riley. I'm just flicking through, and I stop on Tin Cup because it's awesome.
I'm not down with Draft Day, but like
Draft Day was fun.
Brenda says, "Aren't you tired, Riley?" She says, "Aren't you tired?" And I'm like, he's about to hit it like 8 times in the water. I can't turn this thing off, right?
Oh, Roy McIlroy, baby.
Yeah. So the good one. I like Bull Durham. Favorite band or singer?
At the time, probably Kanye West.
Kanye West. All right. There you go.
I didn't see that
It's
coming.
a Logan kind of a hip hop.
Did not see that coming.
Kind of, yeah.
My most repeated song is now.
What is it?
It's Renegade. I got my little 4-year-old addicted
To Sticks?
the beginning of that Sticks song.
Nice.
You know how he's saying, "Oh, mama," and he's walking it in,
and he screams,
and everything comes in. My 4-year-old eats that up. So that's my most played on my.
I gave everybody my new kind of song guy because my nephew ran into him I don't even know what it was, like a little diner back home in New York. The guy called Jelly Roll, and he sings a song called "Son of a Sinner." I want you to listen to that, and then when I see you Thursday, I want you to tell me if you like it or not. So it's my new one, Jelly Roll, "Son of a Sinner." Okay.
Favorite breakfast cereal?
Trix or Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but like I've been on a Trix kick. I go back and forth.
I haven't had Trix in forever. I might get some Trix.
You know what? I left Trix when they went to the fruit shaped and not the puffs, and then they came back to the puffs.
Yeah,
and something's happened.
Trix is good.
But
Trix is good, and so is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Those are 2 fine ones. Anybody that brings a healthy cereal, we give them a hard time.
I like the milk after Trix too. It's like a fruit drink.
Okay, favorite touchdown pass you've ever thrown?
So, oh man, sorry. I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but in my mind, well, I'll just tell you from each stance, right? So in the state championship, we get man coverage. This is back in high school. We get man coverage, and I have the 100-meter champion lined up at Y in the slot, and they're playing man. I threw a 99-yard touchdown in the state championship.
That's a good one.
That's pretty good.
That's my first one. Utah State, I threw a post corner in that Fresno win to Kevin Robinson, and he caught it and got it across the pylon. And then probably the sluggo against Utah State to Cody Hoffman at BYU.
Nice.
So
yeah. Hey, and by the way, they don't have a Kevin Robinson either at Utah State right now that they found.
Right.
Yeah, that's their problem. That's their problem. So, okay, favorite moment in the BYU-Utah State rivalry. What's your favorite? And it could even be when you were a kid. I'm guessing it's going to be something when you were playing. But your favorite moment in that rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, man, when I was playing, we had some rough. I mean, 2009. Sorry, and this is rapid fire. I was gonna say honestly, what was a kid for those that remember Kevin Curtis.
I love Kevin Curtis, man.
They lost, but I think he had like 170 yards and 2 TDs playing against BYU. They still lost by 20, but I remember that game because like back in those days, the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Aggie fans had to survive off moral victories, and Kevin Curtis got his against everybody. My deal, I was really bummed out my senior year. I didn't get to play with him because I was injured. And of course, you mentioned Taysom Hill. That was his first. And then he had the ankle, and then he had the elbow.
Yeah.
His senior year. Anyway, but I mean, those are some of the other ones. I tried to get cute, Blaine, and not tell you the obvious, but I mean, how can it not be?
I know what it is. I know what it is, and it's all fair. Yeah, I have to say though, there's we were talking about earlier with Andrew, like there's a few Utes that I always watch and root for, like Eric Weddle was one that how do you not root for Eric Weddle? Kevin Curtis was an Aggie that I just had to root for, right? When he was part of the Greatest Show on Turf, right? And then also Bobby Wagner, because we're kind of tied a little bit because Clint, my guy up in Logan that works for me, is his daughter, and Bobby have worked together for years and years and years, but and a good dude. So Bobby Wagner but Kevin Curtis may be my all-time favorite Aggie. Merlin Olsen is, but I think Kevin may be my second all-time favorite.
Yeah, he was so electric and so explosive. And I got to tell you, growing up, this fueled obviously this all went away once things started getting recruited, but one of the favorite stories, all the amazing things that he used to do on the field. And the first thing that Aggies love to tell you is, BYU told him to go play intramurals.
That's unbelievable.
The legend here was he went and tried on at BYU, and he not only was he not accepted on the team, that they said, hey, we have a really strong intramural program. Maybe you should go play for them. And instead he packed his stuff up, drove 120 miles north, and had a Hall of Fame career for that.
Unbelievable.
Hey, we're not perfect down here.
Nope.
We're trying, but we are not perfect down here.
So,
Riley, thank you for your time
Riley,
tonight.
so great to have. We love this format that we get to do on Tuesday nights, because when else do we get to get in depth on all these things? This is that we love having you on and love being able to get in depth on all this stuff with you.
Yeah, well, and I'm sorry I didn't know it was live. I always listen to this in the form of a podcast, like when I'm driving down to the game or flying out. So now that I know this is live, this is going to be appointment television for me and my family. So
that's awesome.
Appreciate all you guys do, and not just all that you do for the program and who you are, but personally to me, you've been such great. I consider you friends, and you've always been just totally genuine and great to me and my family. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
You're
We'll
the best.
see you
Thanks,
on Thursday.
Riley. Hey, our love to your family.
Likewise.
Riley Nelson, one of the great quarterbacks at BYU, one of the toughest quarterbacks at BYU. When I say great, I'm throwing in stats and toughness and playing hurt and rallying the troops.
Riley is a lesson in leadership that I talk about all the time, even in my business, because he got it. He understood how to get people to follow him. One of the great leaders BYU's ever had at that position.
Let's use the final few moments tonight, get people up to date on things going on around campus. We've got our This Day in History, a great Lavelle quote, and then we will send you into the week and see you Thursday on Game Day on BYU TV at 4 o'clock Mountain Time. 2-hour pregame show before BYU and Utah State on ESPN. And the postgame show is back on BYU TV. Cougars are a 24-point favorite. Weather's partly cloudy, 20% chance of some rain. Temperatures high of 78 that day, low of 51, which means perfect, maybe some clouds.
And BYU's going to wear the Royal helmets with the Royal face masks and Royal tops with white pants.
It's going to look sharp.
I like that combo. Remember, this year, the advice, is this shirt Royal? It kind of is. Nah, it's not really Royal.
No, it's like Ocean.
But at home games this year, remember, it's Royal all year. Not doing a whiteout or a blackout. You just wear your Royal. It looks phenomenal on TV.
And I really think the uniform scheme is going to look awesome in the glistening lights. Yep. Since we were last together, Dallin Holker left the team.
Yeah, and I don't know that we need to get that much into it. Wants more catches. Thinks he's going to get somewhere else. Phenomenal player, great guy, and sometimes guys just have to do what they think's right for them.
We wish him the best. Carter Wheat, Ethan Erickson will have some more opportunities at the number 10.
Lane Lund may play some. Yeah. They have some guys that have been working hard and waiting in the wings, and it'll be interesting to see, who capitalizes on that, because I think all of those guys may get opportunities, and the one that shines is going to get playing time. So it'll be really, really fun.
BYU inducted a new class of Hall of Famers Friday night over at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Dennis Pitta, who's been on this show, one of our friends.
We had him on the pregame show last week. It's awesome that Dennis is in.
Football, Rachel Nureen from golf, Lindsay Lisenby, women's soccer, Miles Batty, cross country, Yvonne Perez, men's volleyball, and Joanne Calderwood, a pioneer in women's athletics at BYU. All worthy candidates, recipients of induction into the Hall of Fame, and they had the ceremony Friday night. Dennis was on game day with us
really
on
fun.
Saturday, and we congratulate everybody.
Hey, volleyball this Thursday at Portland and Saturday at Gonzaga, so a road swing. Next home game's not till October 6th against Santa Clara. That's going to be on BYU TV. The Cougs are number 15 right now in the country. Heather Olmstead last Saturday became the fastest coach in Division I volleyball history.
Men or women?
Men or women. Women and collegiate volleyball history to reach 200 career wins. Just 8th season in, and she's at 200. Amazing.
Women's soccer at St. Mary's on Saturday. Next home game is Wednesday, October 5th against San Francisco on BYU TV. Cougars trying to get back into that top 25.
Yep. I think they will. They had some growing pains and replace. They've got talent. You mark my words, before the season's over, they'll be back ranked and competing.
I popped over to the Marriott Center last night for the first men's basketball
I saw
practice.
that you were there,
There were so many guys that I'd never seen before. This is a whole new operation that Mark Pope's got going on. Blue-white games on October 26th, and then we're back in action with basketball on November 2nd.
November 2nd, that's right. Ottawa, Arizona, not Ottawa, Canada.
Right. And that's an exhibition game, and then the season opener is November 7th. That's a Monday night against Idaho State on BYU TV. And how about Jimmer Fredette last week?
What did he call his name? Slick Nick?
Slick Nick or something like that.
Yeah, he
dressed in a disguise and went to basketball tryouts.
He wore a fat suit and a heavy sweatshirt, and he still shot lights out.
Never missed a shot.
He shot lights out.
At the end, they revealed, hey, I'm Jimmer, and anyway.
How fun is that for the guys that tried out?
So cool.
Played with Jimmer.
So cool.
Hey, women's basketball exhibition game will be October 27th against Westminster. We don't have the time for that one yet, but it'll be on BYU TV.
Cross country, we congratulate head coach Ed Eyestone, who was on Wise Guys last week. His men's cross country team, #1 in the country this week, after winning the Cowboy Jamboree last Saturday at Oklahoma State. The BYU women moved up to #5 in the polls after their third place finish in Stillwater. That program is ready for the Big 12 right now.
There's multiple programs, but that one could go win a Big 12 championship in year one.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. They win a national championship. They could do that. No,
it's cool to be #1, and they're #1, the men's and the women's, not far behind.
And we're calling it, of course, Wise Guys Karma, that he came on last week, and then all they do is follow that up with a #1 ranking. So,
all right, let's roll out a couple of picks for the season. I'm 31-6. You're 25-10. Things went awry with your Longhorns pick. And with Utah State, UNLV went up and beat them.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I got you on both those.
I thought the Longhorns were back.
Texas is not
was
back.
wrong, and we knew that I was going against the grain on the other one. So
very, very tough games this week. #2 Alabama, at #20 Arkansas.
Alabama's got them. I'm rooting for Arkansas, but I just feel like Alabama's going to win. It'll be closer than people think, though.
#10 North Carolina State is at #5 Clemson.
This is my upset special. At Clemson, North Carolina State going to win. Were you going to do that too?
Yeah, I'm going to still do it.
Okay.
Here's a tough one. #9 Oklahoma State at #16 Baylor.
That's my second upset. I feel like at Baylor's going to slug them in the face, and they're going to win that one. I think North Carolina State's going to beat Clemson, and Baylor's going to beat Oklahoma State. And that's going to really disrupt that top 10.
Navy's at Air Force.
Gosh.
I'm going Air Force. Something's happened with Navy.
Troy Calhoun or Ken Niumatalolo, two of my favorite. I can't pick between. I'm going to go Air Force with you because it's at Air Force.
Another tough one. #7 Kentucky is at #14 Ole Miss. Remember when we had a couple of weeks when they're all dog games? Those weeks are over.
Yeah. Is this the year that Kentucky comes, or the week that Kentucky comes back down to earth on the road at Ole Miss?
That's our quarterback friend.
I know.
Jackson Dart.
I say Ole Miss gets this one. I'm picking 3 upsets. I got to do something for fun.
Yeah, plus you need some points. Except
Wait,
I'm
not this
agreeing
last
with
one.
you.
I want to know if you're going to pick an upset in
I'm
this
going
one.
Oregon State.
You're going Oregon State at Utah.
At Utah. A dagger into the heart.
I think this game is going to be really close, and Utah's going to pull it out at the end at home.
You know,
but the idea that Utah's going to run over Oregon State, I think Oregon State's better than they've been, but it's at Utah.
It's at Utah. It's like a noon game.
I picked 3 upsets, and then you picked 2 because you picked Oregon State too.
Yeah, I'm going with Oregon State. We'll see what happens. Cougars in the NFL on Sunday. The Vikings at the Saints. They're playing over in England.
That's right. So we're talking Taysom Hill and Danny Sorensen.
Browns have Sione Takitaki at Tyler Algier and the Falcons. Algier starting to get more and more carries.
That's right. The Commanders, Dax Milne at the Cowboys.
How about the Cowboys winning last night?
Yeah, that surprised me. Yeah. So, Seahawks at the Lions. That's Jamal Williams.
Couple of touchdowns Sunday
Feature
for
with the
Jamal.
Lions. He's the best.
Is Zach back this week with the Jets?
They said he looked good in warm-ups the other day, and that he's likely back. It could be Zach Wilson's return with the Jets at the Steelers.
The Steelers aren't the Steelers they used
Not
to
the
be.
same old Steelers, but they're still pretty solid on D. The Chargers, that's with Kyle Van Noy and Michael Davis, will be at the Texans this week.
And it's Brady Christensen's Panthers. They're home against the Cardinals. Cardinals are tough to figure out.
Yeah.
Not sure what they got going on.
Yeah, who knows? And then Monday night's game is the Rams and the Niners.
That's
with
going to be a pretty good game.
Fred Warner.
Fred's got to deal with Cooper Kupp back there, and Cooper Kupp's on my fantasy team, so I'm going to be.
Oh man,
I'm going to be.
Fred.
I'm going to have some struggles.
Fred has
on
been
that.
phenomenal.
This day in history, September 27th. You'll be interested to know that there were a lot of things that happened on this day.
Yeah, September 27th is a big day. 1779. John Adams negotiates peace terms with Great Britain to end the Revolutionary War
Affects
on this
all of
day.
us. Affects all of us.
On this day in 1779.
In 1892, on this day, book matches are patented by the Diamond Match Company. You know what? We've all been affected by book matches.
I still have diamond matches in my cupboard.
1908, and I know the Cubs won the World Series that year, but what's on here for Henry Ford's first Model T automobile leaves the plant in Detroit, Michigan. That also affected all of us.
It changed the world is what it did. 1954, The Tonight Show debuts on NBC with a host, Steve Allen, not Johnny Carson.
Nope, Steve Allen.
1973, Barbra Streisand releases The Way We Were.
This did not affect all of us, but it did
Billboard
go.
Song of the Year 1974.
I remember doing a BYU highlight video to that
To the
song.
music, The Way We Were.
The Way We Were. And
Barbra
some
Streisand
nostalgic
was
thing.
amazing.
Greg Maddux, 2008, wins his final start of his career. 355 wins. Let me tell you about Greg Maddux. He's a Las Vegan.
Yeah.
We went to his house one day to interview him after he won another Golden Glove award, or it might have been a Cy Young. I'm not sure. He has all his gold gloves in a hallway upstairs, just lined up.
Oh man!
But it's away from public eye. I mean, he has to show you.
You have to go up to the hall.
But I'll tell you what, it's as an impressive thing as you and he wouldn't let us shoot it. He's because he's just not that way. He's the most down to earth guy you'd ever. But man, he had a hallway.
That's amazing.
Of
what a great
Golden
player
Gloves.
and what a great guy. Remember when you and I used to do a bunch of the UNLV package, and Greg used to come to the games.
Oh
and
yeah,
do
love
the
the
basketball
the
games.
Rebels.
Love to watch the Rebs, and we got a chance to meet and talk to Greg multiple times during that time.
Birthdays today.
Yeah, 1601, Louis the 13th. No, yeah, Louis the 13th, right?
Yeah.
The 8th king of France. I was thinking it was Louis the 14th. It's Louis the 13th.
Yeah, 8th king of France, born today. 1772, Samuel Adams was born today. Boston Tea Party.
Yeah. And is he the guy? Is he the beer guy? Samuel Adams beer?
I
think it's named after him.
It might be named after him.
That's more important.
I don't know what he drank.
That's how people know him today.
He didn't like tea. We do know that.
Because he's the beer guy. So 1934, Wilford Brimley, born in Salt Lake City, died in 2020 in St. George.
I did not know. I went a long time. I didn't know he was a member of the church.
Yeah, Utah guy.
And what an actor. And you can't think of oatmeal without. Was it oatmeal with Wilford Brimley?
It's the right thing to do, is what he used to say.
Yeah. I don't know if it was oatmeal. It was something like that. 1947, Marvin Lee Aday.
Yeah.
Was born.
Who's that? That's not how we know him.
Who's that? That's Meatloaf.
And then 1972, let's Pepper Potts from Iron Man.
Yeah.
And who is that?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
I thought she was great in that series.
So how old is Gwyneth Paltrow? 82, 92, 02, 12, 20. Is she 50?
Yeah, she's 50.
Oh, man. Gwyneth Paltrow looks amazing for 50. I didn't realize she was 50.
An interesting death on this day back in 1998. Doak Walker.
That's right.
The Doak Walker Award.
Luke Staley's the only BYU player to win the Doak Walker Award. Let's just say that Utah's never had a Doak Walker Award winner, though. Can we say that?
Yeah, they haven't. Or a Heisman winner or a national championship.
That's right.
The list goes down the line. All right, a Lavelle Edwards quote. I'm going to set it up and have you read it, and that will take us out, and then we'll get ready for the game on Thursday. So Coach Edwards played his football at Utah State between 1949 and 1951. I wrote an article about him in the Deseret News yesterday. You can get it at Deseret.com. He became the head coach at BYU in 1972, 50 years ago. He's a member of both schools' athletic halls of fame. During his retirement, he visited with the Aggie football team after spring practice in 2010. And here's the advice he gave, as quoted in the Herald Journal.
So he's referring to Logan, right?
Yeah.
So he says, you've got to love football, you've got to love each other, and you got to love your university. If you can buy into that, then everything else is going to fall into place. I firmly believe that. It says the old adage we used to have around BYU when I was with students was the students would come in there, they'd spend 4 or 5 years trying to figure out how they can get out of there, and then they leave and they spend the rest of their lifetime trying to figure out how they can get back. Isn't that the truth?
There's something about our collegiate years.
Yep, got to get done, got to get graduate, got to
Can't
get
wait
out
to
into
get
the world.
out, and
then you
then-
get out in the world and you're like, man, I can't wait. I wish I could get back. Well,
See,
you and I are lucky. We got to get back to Provo.
That's why we're two of the luckiest guys.
You went off to Vegas. I moved up to Davis County. We lived away for 30-something years, and then we came back. We got to come back to our homeland.
And now we're the wise guys. When we were teenagers, we were called wise something else, but now we're the wise guys.
And now we work out of an undisclosed basement in Provo.
And like Riley was at an undisclosed location in Logan tonight.
Well, one of our guys tweeted, hey, ask Riley what the weather's like up there in Ogden. That's just so wrong. It's so wrong on so many levels.
Well, appropriately, in the 50th anniversary of his hiring, BYU's game with Utah State will be played at LaVell Edwards Stadium, and Patty Edwards is going to light the Y.
That's just awesome.
During pregame festivities.
I know Brenda and the girls are going to be out with Patty for lunch this week, I think.
Oh, good.
So it's really, really awesome. And, hey, we'll see you Thursday night. Dave and I will see you Thursday night, 6 Mountain on BYU
I guess
Sports
we're at 4
Nation.
Thursday. I wrote that wrong. 4 Mountain.
It's
6
6 Eastern.
Eastern, yeah.
4 Mountain, because the game's going to kick at about 6:15-ish on Thursday evening. But we'll join you at 4 Mountain on game day.
And then we're back next week with Rob Jensen and Travis Hansen, two very powerful, influential, and successful BYU graduates. You'll join us live from New York.
Yep,
I'll hold it down right here. We'll also check in with the alumni folks in Vegas to get all the details
ready to go for
ahead.
Notre Dame, baby.
Another big fan fest out of that same place the Friday night before the BYU Notre Dame game. So there'll be thousands of folks. We'll have all the details for you next week.
The rivalry game followed by the Notre Dame game. Does it get any better?
And then the
than this?
Arkansas game.
It's just a great time to be in Provo and be a Cougar.
Podcast will be up tomorrow. Tell your friends and do us a favor. Subscribe to us on YouTube. It's free. We're trying to build a massive number there because then it's beneficial for us as we continue this show as well. So go to YouTube. There it is right there. That's how you do it.
So somebody said, shout out to Boney Fuller's We Are Farmers tweet. I haven't
seen it,
yet,
but I can only imagine.
I will go find it.
Another one, Ed Eyestone, is freaking amazing. You know what else he is? He's number 1 tonight.
Yes, number 1 in the land. So
thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
We'll see you next week.